Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 509. However, wanting to extort him, Qin Feiyang, was a wrong idea. Qin Feiyang said, "Are you sure you won't give me the coordinates?" "I didn't say I won't give it to you. I just said, give me the pills," Yin Yuanming said with a smile. In the past, he had always been eaten by Qin Feiyang. Now, it was finally his turn to eat Qin Feiyang. Shua. Qin Feiyang did not waste any more words. He directly stood up and took out a teleportation gate. "I'll wait for you here. Go and come back quickly." Yin Yuanming laughed, thinking that Qin Feiyang was going to the sacred hall to refine pills. "In the future, if you want pills from the treasure pavilion, go find Lu Xingchen and Murong Jing," Qin Feiyang said indifferently, and then opened the teleportation gate. Yin Yuanming was slightly taken aback, and his expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly stood up and grabbed Qin Feiyang, saying, "Don't be angry, I was just joking." "I'm not joking. After being together for so long, you should know my personality. I don't like being threatened. Yunzhou, I can go there or not. But our cooperation ends here," Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. Yin Yuanming's face was a little pale, and he was extremely annoyed in his heart. Why did he get carried away for a moment and forget his limits? Although this kid usually behaved amiably, once he was annoyed, there was no room for discussion. "Brother Qin, don't be like this. I'm really just joking. I'll give you the coordinates now." Yin Yuanming dragged Qin Feiyang back to his seat and quickly smiled apologetically. Qin Feiyang said, "What about the pills?" Yin Yuanming waved his hand and said, "The pills are a small matter, it won't be too late to refine them when you come back." Hee hee. Qin Feiyang also laughed, and said, "I was just joking, I hope Brother Yin doesn't mind." "Huh, no. Yin Yuanming laughed dryly, his heart bitter. Did he dare to mind? One had to know. Now, the precious treasure pavilion would auction 2 potential pills and scarlet fire-colored glass pills every month. To the people of the city, this had already become a habit. Every time it was time for the auction, before the precious treasure pavilion had even sent out a notice, all the great clans would flock over. It could even be said that the auction of the potential pill and scarlet-colored glass pill was a grand ceremony. Therefore, if there came a day when precious treasure pavilion stopped auctioning, they would definitely be in deep trouble. Yin Yuanming couldn't bear the consequences. "I lost another round." He could not help but sigh in his heart and obediently gave the coordinates to Qin Feiyang. "Don't worry, I won't go to any dangerous places this time. If you need the potential pill and the scarlet fire-colored glass pill, just send me a message. I will think of a way for you as soon as possible." After getting the coordinates, Qin Feiyang smiled from the bottom of his heart. "Yes." Yin Yuanming nodded. It was such a simple matter, but he actually made it so complicated and almost caused their relationship to be strained. What a muddle-headed old man. "Then I'll take my leave." Qin Feiyang got up and opened another teleportation gate and strode in. Just as the teleportation gate disappeared, a beautiful purple figure pushed the door open and entered. Yin Yuanming hurriedly got up and bowed. "Greetings, Pavilion Master." The Pavilion Master said, "Fortunately, you remedied the situation in time. Otherwise, the manager of the precious treasure pavilion in the East City might have to be replaced." Yin Yuanming's expression froze and he smiled apologetically. The Pavilion Master sat on the chair and frowned. "But why is this kid going to Yunzhou?" Yin Yuanming stood at the side and was also very puzzled. "Should we inform the mansion master?" The Pavilion Master pondered for a moment and shook his head. "Forget it, let him do what he wants. You and I will pretend that we don't know anything. Anyway, that kid is a cat. He has 9 lives and won't die." 9 lives? Yin Yuanming was stunned and then couldn't help but smile bitterly. A majestic mountain range stood tall on the ground. The mountains overlapped and the ancient trees towered into the sky. Looking down from the sky, it was like a green ocean, with no end in sight. Swoosh! A young man wearing a white robe appeared out of thin air above the mountain. This person was Qin Feiyang. As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared and saw the boundless mountains, he couldn't help but frown. This is Yunzhou? He muttered and carefully scanned the area below. Ferocious beasts and birds were everywhere in the mountains. However, their auras weren't very strong. They were basically at the War Emperor level or below. Roar! Boom! Suddenly, a deafening beast roar came from afar. At the same time, there was a loud noise that shook the heavens and earth. Someone is fighting? Qin Feiyang frowned and flew towards the place where the sound came from. A moment later, he landed on the peak of a mountain that was about 100 feet high and looked down at the forest. He saw that the ancient trees at the foot of the mountain were broken and the mountain rocks collapsed. A strong battle wave spread in all directions. The ones fighting were 3 young men and a young woman and a pitch-black giant crocodile. The giant crocodile was more than 30 meters long. Its entire body was covered with millstone-sized scales that were suffused with a dark luster. The 3 young men were 2 men and a woman. They were all wearing black clothes. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. Their temperament was quite extraordinary. But at this moment, the 3 of them were covered in wounds. Because the giant crocodile's strength was 1 level higher than theirs. According to Qin Feiyang's observation, the giant crocodile had the strength of a 4-star war emperor. However, the 3 of them were only 1-star war emperor. They relied on their battle arts to compete with the giant crocodile. As the battle became more and more intense, Qin Feiyang's eyes gradually revealed a trace of surprise. The battle arts that the 3 of them had mastered were actually high-grade battle arts. It seemed that the identities of these 3 people were not simple. However, the giant crocodile was born with rough skin and thick flesh. Its defensive power was astonishing. And it had boundless strength. And the 2 rows of fangs in its mouth were sharp and indestructible. Even people of the same level might not be its match. Therefore, these 3 people were basically at a disadvantage. Roar! At this moment, another loud beast roar came from afar. What's going on? Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the mountains and rivers that were thousands of meters away. His eyes were filled with suspicion. The beast's roar came from there. But why did he encounter 2 groups of people hunting fierce beasts the moment he arrived? Could it be that this was the hunting ground of the cloud region? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang noticed that the 3 people who were fighting with the giant crocodile had a small sword embroidered on their chest. It was just that their clothes were somewhat tattered, and Qin Feiyang did not notice it at first. He was too familiar with this small sword. Wasn't it the symbol of the temple? So these 3 people were from the temple. Since their cultivation had reached the War Emperor, then there was no doubt that they were disciples of the inner palace. Whiz! Qin Feiyang did not continue watching and silently flew towards another place where the battle was taking place. A moment later, he entered the forest and flew towards Qin Feiyang. Very quickly, a lake entered his line of sight. 4 young men and women dressed in robes were fighting with a War Emperor fierce beast. The 4 of them all had the cultivation of the War Emperor. 2 of them were dressed in white, while the other 2 were dressed in black. There was also a small sword embroidered on their chest. They were also disciples of the inner palace. Boom! Roar! Gradually, the sound of battle could be heard from many places in all directions. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with suspicion. He went to a few more places where the battle was taking place. Without exception, they were all disciples of the temple's inner palace. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was filled with doubts. Chirp! All of a sudden, a huge beast soared into the sky. It was a falcon. When it spread its wings, it was more than 10 meters long. Its speed was as fast as lightning, and its dark eyes were filled with a sharp light. Qin Feiyang stood beside a bush and looked at the falcon. There was a trace of battle art in his eyes. This falcon's cultivation had actually reached the 6-star war emperor. Whoosh! The falcon soared into the sky, turned in the air, and rushed towards the battlefield below. At that place, 2 young men in black were ganging up on a 2-star war emperor Black Panther. Both of them had the cultivation of a 3-star war emperor, and the Black Panther was unable to fight back. But in the end, the falcon swooped down like lightning, and its sharp claws directly crushed the 2 men's heads. Ah! Accompanied by 2 mournful screams, the 2 men died on the spot. So cruel. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. They even dared to kill inner palace disciples. It seemed that this was not a simple experience. Whoosh! But at the same time, 6 figures dashed out from the forest and went straight for the falcon. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 6 people, and his pupils constricted. These 6 people were actually 5-star war emperors. Chirp! However, the falcon was not afraid at all. With an ear-piercing screech, it pounced towards one of them. Die! That person was not to be outdone. He waved his hands, and his battle chi surged. He evolved a high-grade battle art and attacked the falcon. At the same time, the other 6 people also made their moves. Their battle chi turned into huge waves that covered the sky, and crushed towards the falcon. Seeing that the situation was not good, the falcon spread its wings and soared into the sky. The 6 people were about to chase after it. But a young man in black rushed into the sky first, and shouted coldly, "It's mine, no one is allowed to snatch it." Seeing the young man in black, the 6 people suddenly stopped in the void, and their faces were filled with fear. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 6 people, and then raised his head to look at the young man in black. His eyes were flickering. This person was about 1.8 meters tall, and his thick black hair danced in the wind. There was no expression on his cold face. He was like a demon god, and his sharp eyes pierced people's hearts. "Bastard, let's see where you can run to today." The young man in black had an imposing aura, and his speed was unbelievably fast. In a few blinks of an eye, he caught up with the falcon. Auxiliary battle art. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Die. After catching up with the falcon, the young man in black immediately said coldly. His big hand stretched out in the air, and his battle chi roared, turning into a huge hand that covered the sky. He grabbed the falcon and then clenched his fist. Chirp! Along with a wail, the falcon's huge body was crushed on the spot, and blood stained the sky. Senior Zhao Wei is indeed powerful. That's right. Not to mention that falcon, even a 7-star combat emperor or an 8-star combat emperor would be a piece of cake for Senior Zhao Wei. You guys are too shallow. I'm afraid that even a 9-star combat emperor beast would not be a match for Senior Zhao Wei. The 6 5-star combat emperors discussed in a low voice. They looked at the young man in black with eyes full of admiration. Zhao Wei looked at the rain of blood and smiled disdainfully. He lowered his head and looked at the 6 people. His eyes were also filled with contempt, and then he plunged into the depths of the mountain without saying a word. Chapter 5:10. Zhao Wei. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. This man not only had the cultivation of a 7-star combat emperor, but also mastered a superior auxiliary combat art. He was a terrifying figure. But for him, it was nothing to worry about. But this Zhao Wei, who was he in the inner palace of Yunzhou? And why were all these people heading to the depths of the mountain? Let's go and have a look. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. But before he could take a step, the image crystal in his arms rang. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. Who would send him a message? The old master? Ren Wuxuang? He took out the image crystal and hesitated. If it was the old master, he would definitely be scolded. After thinking for a while, he finally gritted his teeth and entered the castle. Battle chi gushed out from his palm and into the image crystal. The shadow of an old man suddenly appeared. It was the old master. Moreover, the old man was currently fuming with rage, and he looked very angry. Qin Feiyang calmed down and asked in confusion, "Old master, what are you doing? Who made you like this?" "Who?" The old master was so angry that he laughed and shouted, "Get back here right now." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I'm sorry, I have something urgent outside. I'm afraid I can't go back now. If you have something to say, just tell me." "Something urgent?" The old master sneered and said, "Are you in Yunzhou now?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly, "I don't even have the coordinates. How can I go to Yunzhou?" The old master said in a low voice, "Didn't Yin Yuanming tell you?" Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "With your orders, would he dare to tell me?" The old master said, "Then where are you now?" "Well." Qin Feiyang hesitated and smiled, "It's a secret for now. Anyway, I'm not in Yunzhou." The old man's gaze turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "Brat, if this old man finds out that you're lying, you'll definitely suffer when you come back." Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. He pretended to be in a hurry and said, "I have to go take care of something. Let's talk about it when I have time." Then, he turned off the image crystal. Wolf King opened his eyes and gloated, "You'll definitely suffer when you get back. How did I know a bastard like you?" Qin Feiyang was instantly enraged. "I've been thinking about this as well. Why did God want me to meet a jinx like you? You see, ever since I met you, this trouble has never stopped." "Brother, you're really asking for trouble." Wolf King sighed. "I'll endure it." Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and lowered his head to ponder. Although Wolf King was a bastard, what he said made sense. Although the old man didn't know that he was in Yunzhou, there was no guarantee that the old man wouldn't come to Yunzhou to inquire. Even if the old man didn't come, if he caused a big commotion in Yunzhou and the old man heard about it, he would still be in trouble when he returned. It seemed that he had to think of a way. Fatso said, "Boss, it's very simple. As long as you change your appearance and conceal your identity, the old man won't find out." "That's what I thought." Qin Feiyang nodded. He took out an illusion pill and changed into the appearance of a weak young man. Then, he changed into linen clothes. "How is it?" Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso and asked. "Perfect." Fatso chuckled. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do you want to go out with me?" Fatso thought for a moment and said, "I've been in seclusion for so long. It's good to go out and get some fresh air." Then, he also took an illusion pill and changed his appearance slightly. However, he was still Fatso and looked more wretched than before. Wolf King hurriedly said, "Brother wants to go too." "No." Qin Feiyang flatly refused. What a joke. Whether they could win the 9 States War depended on the white-eyed wolf. How could he let it go out and cause trouble? It was a waste of time. Wolf King immediately jumped up and roared, "If Fatso can go out, why can't I go out? Sigh. You know what my wish is. I must win the 9 States War. So, please bear with it for now. When the 9 States War starts, I will accompany you to cause trouble." Qin Feiyang sighed. Wolf King raised his eyebrows and lay on the ground weakly, saying, "You said it. If you don't keep your word, don't blame me for falling out with you." "Don't worry." Qin Feiyang smiled and left the ancient castle with Fatso. However, when the two of them appeared in the forest, 2 black-clothed youths ran out from the forest behind them. "Who are you? Why are you here?" The two of them came before Qin Feiyang and Fatso with a trace of hostility between their brows. "Yo!" Fatso sized up the two of them and sneered, "How dare you yell at Fat Lord? Are you looking for a beating?" The two of them were only 2-star combat emperors. For the current Qin Feiyang and Fatso, they could crush them with a single finger. Fatty's reprimand caused the two of them to be somewhat stunned. Did this fat pig not have eyes? Didn't he see that they were inner palace disciples? How dare he be so arrogant in front of them? Who was the one looking for a beating? After regaining their senses, the two of them darkened their eyes. What? Do you really want to fight? Come, come, come. Fat Lord will fight with both of his hands. Fatso raised his nose to the sky and hooked his finger at the two of them. It was a provocative gesture. Damn Fatso, you really don't know what's good for you. The two of them were enraged. Their aura exploded and they pounced at Fatso. You really want to fight? You're overestimating yourself. Fatso shook his head and raised his index finger, waving it in the air. His posture was as annoying as it could get. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said, "Don't mess around. Take them down. I have something to ask them." Understood. Fatso chuckled and stretched out both of his hands. The fat on his body jiggled. You want to fight with us like this? As Qin Feiyang and Fatso had concealed their aura, the two black-clothed youths looked at them with disdain. One looked weak, and the other was as fat as a pig. How strong could they be? But in the next moment, the two of them were dumbfounded. Fatso easily grabbed their wrists. It looked like he didn't use any strength, but no matter how hard they struggled, they couldn't break free. So strong? How was this possible? The two of them were shocked. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed beside Fatso. He looked at the two of them and said, "Tell me, what are you doing in this mountain range?" "You don't know?" The two black-clothed youths were stunned. Then, they looked at Qin Feiyang and Fatso as if they were looking at monsters. "If I tell you to answer, then answer. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Do you want to die?" The fatty lazily looked at the two of them, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. Die? Are you joking? Do you know who we are? Let me tell you, we are disciples of the inner palace. How dare you threaten us? How arrogant. However, the two of them were not afraid at all. They had nothing to fear. Fatso glanced at the two of them and sneered, "It seems that if I don't get serious, you won't be honest. If you have the guts, why don't you try? I promise you, if you really dare to make a move, this will be your burial ground." The two of them laughed disdainfully. Really? Then Fat Lord really wants to try. Fatso chuckled. His 10 fingers suddenly contracted. Accompanied by 2 cracking sounds, their wrists were crushed on the spot. Blood splattered everywhere. Ah, the two of them screamed on the spot. Their faces were distorted from the pain. Fatso's hands shot out like lightning and firmly grabbed their necks. He hung them in the air and laughed, "Do you believe me now? Bastard. You really ate the guts of a leopard. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Today, everyone in this mountain range is from the inner palace. If you know what's good for you, let us go immediately. Otherwise, as long as we shout, even the gods can't save you." The two of them growled, their eyes full of murderous intent. "That's simple. I'll make you unable to shout. Isn't that enough?" The corner of Fatso's mouth lifted and his 5 fingers exerted force. The two of them suddenly felt suffocated. They grabbed Fatso's wrists with both hands and struggled desperately. There was also a trace of pleading in their eyes. Fatso chuckled, "How is it? Are you willing to tell me now?" The two of them nodded repeatedly. Fatso loosened his hands and said, "Tell me, why are the people of the inner palace here?" "Senior brother Zhao Wei, there are outsiders invading. Come and save us." One of the black-clothed youths suddenly roared. His voice was like a bell that resounded through the sky. "You're courting death." Fatso's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He exerted force with both hands and the two of them instantly flushed red. "Outsiders invading? Who has the guts to break in here?" The people who were wandering around or fighting with the ferocious beasts immediately rushed over. At the same time, high up in the sky, a black figure, like lightning, cut through the sky, full of murderous intent. It was Zhao Wei. Qin Feiyang glanced around and frowned slightly. With a wave of his hand, he brought Fatso and the two of them into the castle. Immediately, Fatso's 5 fingers tightened and crushed the throat of one of them. Then, he looked at the other and said coldly, "Answer us immediately. You really killed them?" Seeing this, that person's face instantly turned pale and said, Okay, I'll talk. After this person's explanation, Qin Feiyang realized that this was indeed an experience. The Great War of the 9 States was about to begin. Not only was the spiritual state preparing, but so was the cloud state. However, unlike the spiritual state, the cloud state's mansion master allowed the inner palace disciples to fight. On one hand, it was to hone their temperament and increase their combat experience. On the other hand, it was to stimulate everyone's fighting spirit and competitiveness. This place was called the Spirit Cloud Mountains, the border between the spiritual state and the cloud state. Not only were the Spirit Cloud Mountains densely packed with beasts, but it was also very vast. Even a combat master would need several months to cross the mountains. And this place was only the border area. In order to avoid being disturbed, the Cloud State Mansion Master also personally ordered that before the end of the experience, no one except the inner palace disciples was allowed to step into the mountains. There were even a large number of guards at the entrance of the Spirit Cloud Mountains to prevent people with bad intentions from sneaking into the mountains. In other words, this was now the exclusive venue for the inner palace disciples to train. Most importantly, in order to motivate everyone, the Cloud State Mansion Master also hid 2 treasures in the mountains. Chapter 5:11. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other and their eyes lit up at the same time. The treasures hidden by the Lord of a State must be extraordinary. Fatso asked, "What treasures are they?" The black-clothed young man quickly said, "Superior Auxiliary Combat Art, 4th Grade Alchemy Fire." 4th Grade Alchemy Fire. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? They actually encountered a 4th Grade Alchemy Fire as soon as they arrived? Without a doubt, they were tempted. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do you know where these 2 treasures are hidden?" "I don't know and no one knows. But according to everyone's guess, they are most likely hidden in the depths of the mountains. Because there are many powerful beasts in the depths of the mountains. Only by hiding there can they serve as a test," the black-clothed young man said. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized that this was the reason why Zhao Wei and the others had rushed to the depths of the mountains. Fatty said, "Then among the people participating in the training this time, other than Zhao Wei, who else is stronger?" "You don't even know this? Are you really from the in-state?" The black-clothed young man glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others in surprise. Fatso's eyes turned cold and he shouted, "Just answer when I ask you to answer. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The black-clothed young man's eyes trembled and he quickly said, "Zhao Wei's strength is ranked 10th in the inner hall." 10th. Qin Feiyang was secretly shocked. Zhao Wei was a 7-star combat emperor, but he was only ranked 10th. Fatso asked, "What are the other 9 people's cultivation levels?" 3 1-star combat ancestors. 3 9-star combat emperors. 3 8-star combat emperors. There are 11 7-star combat emperors and Zhao Wei's strength is ranked 1st. I heard that he is about to become an 8-star combat emperor," the black-clothed young man said. "So strong." Qin Feiyang was shocked and said, "Where are they now?" "They have rushed to the depths of the mountains." After the black-clothed young man finished speaking, he asked in horror, "Can you let me go now?" Qin Feiyang turned to look at Fatso with a cold glint in his eyes. Fatso understood. His 5 fingers suddenly contracted, and with a crack, he crushed the throat of the black-clothed youth. Very soon, the black-clothed youth breathed his last. Fatso tossed the black-clothed young man onto the ground and asked, "Boss, how is the overall strength of the inner palace of the spiritual state?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I only know the general situation of the Pill Fire Hall. I've never been to the cultivation hall." In the Pill Fire Palace, other than the mysterious king in the number 1 alchemy room, only Wu Yan and Su Yang were 7-star combat emperors. However, it didn't mean that the spiritual state was weaker than the cloud state. After all, the Pill Fire Hall was filled with alchemists, while the cultivation hall was where warriors gathered. There was no lack of experts there. However, this had nothing to do with him for the time being. What he needed to do now was to find the 4th-grade alchemy fire. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang said to Fatso, "Disguise yourself as them. It'll be easier to do things." Fatso nodded. The two took out the illusion pills, changed their appearances, and put on the clothes of the 2 black-clothed youths. Then, they waited. When the commotion outside disappeared, Qin Feiyang and Fatso took the 2 corpses and left the castle. "Bury them quickly," Qin Feiyang said to Fatso, then raised his head and looked around vigilantly. There was no one around. However, the sounds of battle in the distance were endless. At the same time, Fatso waved his hand, and his battle aura gushed out, blasting a deep pit and burying the 2 in no time. Then, the 2 retracted their aura and rushed into the depths of the mountain range. No one knew the location of the alchemy fire. They could either find it by luck or wait for others to find it and snatch it with their strength. Qin Feiyang chose the second option, because it was a waste of time to find it. Not long after, Qin Feiyang and Fatso came to a river. "Ma-san, Zhonglu, why are you here?" As soon as they jumped to the other side of the river, a surprised voice came from the jungle next to them. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other, and a trace of anger suddenly appeared in their eyes. Before killing the 2 people, they forgot to ask for their names. Now they didn't know if the people in the jungle were talking to them. But in order not to arouse suspicion, the 2 stopped and turned to look at the jungle. Soon, a man and a woman came out of the jungle. The man was wearing a white robe, and the woman was wearing a black dress, with a small arrow embroidered on her chest, and her body was stained with blood. It was enough to show that the man was an alchemist. Coming to Qin Feiyang and Fatso, the man in white frowned and said, "I asked you a question, why don't you answer?" "Yes, didn't you say that there were outsiders invading? Where are they?" the woman in black also asked. Qin Feiyang and Fatso's eyes flashed. It turned out that he was really calling them. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and apologized, "I'm really sorry, we were dazzled just now and scared you." Dazzled? The man and the woman were slightly stunned. Following which, their faces were filled with anger. The man in white scolded angrily, "How can you be dazzled? Why don't you go to hell?" "Yes, we were worried for nothing." The woman in black also looked disgusted. Seeing their faces, Fatso raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "It's just a misunderstanding. You don't have to make it sound so bad." "Yo." The man in white looked up and down at Fatso and sneered, "Zhonglu, you've got guts. How dare you talk to me like this? Who do you think you are?" Fatso crossed his arms and looked at him disdainfully. The man in white's eyes darkened and his face was full of hostility. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was bad and hurriedly pushed Fatso behind him. He looked at the man in white and said with a smile, "Zhonglu is also very angry now, so his words are a bit harsh. Senior brother, please be magnanimous and don't bother with him. I don't have time to bother with trash like you. I'll give you a word of advice. This Spirit Cloud Mountain is very dangerous. You have to be careful." The man in white looked at Qin Feiyang and Fatso with contempt and then said something meaningful. Then, he turned around and rushed into the depths of the mountain with the woman in black. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows imperceptibly. "Isn't this person too arrogant? Boss, are we just going to let them leave like this?" Fatso stared at the backs of the 2, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. There's still a long way to go. There's no hurry. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked into the depths of the mountain. Fatso followed and asked puzzledly, "Boss, why do you think he's so arrogant?" Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said, "It should be because he's an alchemist." Tch. Fatso immediately showed a look of disdain. "Don't underestimate anyone. Uncle Yuan has told me more than once that no matter how strong or weak the opponent is, I have to go all out." Qin Feiyang said. Fat Lord also understands this. He's so arrogant in front of others, Fat Lord won't say anything. But he actually dares to be so arrogant in front of you? He really doesn't know how much weight he has. Fatso sneered. Mentality is the most important. Why don't you just treat him as a clown? Qin Feiyang laughed. Fatso was stunned. He pondered for a moment and laughed. After hearing what you said, I feel much better. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Bang! Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound and the roar of a beast came from somewhere in front. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. They immediately used their full speed and rushed towards the place where the sound came from. On the way, they met more than 10 young men and women. There were alchemists in white and warriors in black. Their strength was above the 2-star combat emperor. The strongest was a 4-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang and Fatso slowed down and gradually approached. Fatso ran to a woman in white and whispered, "Senior sister, what happened?" "I don't know either." The woman in white turned her head and glanced at him, shaking her head. Next. More and more people gathered here, their faces filled with bewilderment. The arrogant man and woman from before were also in the crowd. Boom! All of a sudden, a loud sound exploded like a clap of thunder. At the same time, a destructive wave of battle enveloped them. Kacha! In front of them, large trees were turned into ashes. A few hundred zhang tall mountains were razed to the ground in an instant. Dust covered the sky and covered the sun. Such a strong aura. Who exactly is fighting? Could it be that they found the alchemy fire and battle arts? Everyone was very surprised. After 10 breaths, Qin Feiyang and Fatso blended into the crowd and came to a small hill, looking forward. Immediately, the two of them saw a black-clothed man who was locked in a fierce battle with a giant black scorpion. That giant scorpion was more than 20 meters long. Its whole body was as if it was cast with divine iron, indestructible. Especially its giant tail, it was raised high like a pitch-black python, baring its fangs and choosing its prey. And the man fighting with the giant scorpion was Zhao Wei. A man and a beast were fighting in the void. The destructive waves rolled in all directions, crushing everything. Those below the level of a 6-star combat emperor couldn't get within 100 meters of them. Strange. Someone whispered. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look. A young man in black stood beside him. He was very short, only about 1.6 meters tall. His body was very thin, and he looked very ugly. But at this moment, he was looking at Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion fighting with a puzzled face. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but ask, "What's strange? Why are we here?" The young man in black asked. Qin Feiyang said, "Of course we are here to find the alchemy fire and battle arts." "Yes, since we are here to find the alchemy fire and battle arts, we should try our best to avoid unnecessary trouble. And this giant scorpion's strength is on par with senior brother Zhao Wei. It is obviously a big trouble. But why does senior brother Zhao Wei want to fight it to the end?" The young man in black frowned. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang frowned. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Could it be that there are treasures nearby? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang whispered to Fatso next to him, "Quickly look around." "Look for what?" Fatso was stunned. Of course we are looking for treasures, Qin Feiyang said. Hearing the word treasures, Fatso's eyes lit up. Immediately, the two of them split up to search. Chapter 5:12. As for the others, they were all attracted by the battle between Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion. Their eyes were burning with passion. That giant scorpion was definitely a 9-star combat emperor, but Zhao Wei was not at a disadvantage at all. He was really tough. Boom! Crack! An ear-splitting noise resounded through the sky. More and more people were rushing in this direction. Among them, there was no lack of experts who could rival Zhao Wei. But all of this had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang and Fatso. The two of them shuttled through the mountain forest, looking everywhere they looked, not letting go of any suspicious things. A moment later, Qin Feiyang stood on the top of the mountain, scanning the area below, his brows tightly knitted together. Along the way, he had only found some ordinary herbs. There was no sign of a rare treasure at all. Could it be that he had guessed wrong? Buzz! Suddenly, the image crystal in his arms rang. Who sent me a message this time? Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. After pondering for a while, he ignored it. If it was the old man, he would definitely be scolded again. What's more, now was not the time to talk. But when he was about to jump down from the top of the mountain and search elsewhere, the image crystal rang again. Who is it? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, entered the castle, took out the image crystal, and poured his battle qi into it. An illusory figure quickly appeared. It turned out that it was not the old man, but a young man in black. It was Zhang Lu, who was transformed by Fatso. Fatso frowned and said, "Boss, what the hell are you doing? Why didn't you answer my message?" Qin Feiyang said with a wry smile, "I thought it was the old man." "How is it, did you find anything? It seems that you have a phobia of the old man." Fatso smiled playfully. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, "Cut the crap, let's get down to business." Fatso said, "I found a magical little tree, but I don't know what it is." "What little tree?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. For Fatso to call it miraculous, it was definitely not simple. Fatso said, "The small tree is only about 1 meter tall. Its leaves and trunk are fiery red. There are also 3 red fruits on it." "Fruit? Fiery red?" Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment. It did sound quite magical. Next, he began to search through his memories. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he looked at Fatso and asked, "Do the 3 fruits all look like human hearts?" "How did you know?" Fatso asked in surprise. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. His eyes were filled with fanaticism as he said, "Damn Fatso, you really found a rare treasure." "What is that?" Fatso said. Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me where you are. I'll go find you right away." Fatso said, "I'm on top of a mountain. There are a lot of black stones on the edge of the mountain. They are quite big. You can find them if you look carefully." "Okay, you pick the 3 fruits first, then hide and wait for me." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he directly turned off the image crystal. At this time, Lin Yi opened her eyes and warned, "Brother Feiyang, be careful." "Don't worry." Qin Feiyang turned his head and smiled slightly at Lin Yi, then left the castle. He stood on the top of the mountain and scanned the surroundings. Soon, he found the mountain that Fatso mentioned. The mountain peak was 500 to 600 meters high, with cliffs and shrubs. At the edge of the mountain peak, there were indeed a lot of black stones piled up. Qin Feiyang looked up again. The place where Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei fought was about 1 mile away from the mountain peak. It seemed that it was difficult to determine the winner between the two. There should be enough time. Swoosh! Without hesitation, Qin Feiyang turned into a stream of light, shuttled through the dense forest, and went straight to the mountain peak. Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei were still fighting, and they didn't notice him at all. After a dozen breaths, Qin Feiyang finally came to the top of the mountain. This place was full of rocks and weeds. Among the weeds, a small red tree swayed in the wind, exuding a hazy brilliance. On the small tree, 3 plump fruits hung, exuding a strong fragrance. But seeing the small tree and fruits, the joy in Qin Feiyang's heart was instantly diluted. His face was extremely gloomy. Because beside the small tree, there was not only Fatso but also another person. It was the black-clothed young man who had warned him before, the one with the head of a snake and the eyes of a rat. This person and Fatso stood opposite each other, looking at each other with vigilance. Seeing Qin Feiyang coming up, the black-shirt youth's eyes flashed with surprise. "What's the matter?" Qin Feiyang walked to Fatso's side and frowned. "I was about to listen to you and pick these fruits, but this person came up. Although he is only a 3-star combat emperor and I can easily kill him, if I do, Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei will definitely notice. So, we are in a stalemate," Fatso whispered. Qin Feiyang looked up at the black-shirt youth and said with a faint smile, "You can't judge a book by its cover. This sentence is indeed correct. Aren't you the same? In the inner palace, you too were timid and afraid of trouble. I didn't expect you to be so smart and react faster than me." The black-shirt youth laughed. Timid and afraid of trouble? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. It seemed that Ma San and Zhang Lu didn't have a good life in the inner palace. But he and Fatso couldn't be compared with these two people. Qin Feiyang asked, "What do you want?" The black-shirt youth said without hesitation, "Everyone who sees it will get a share." Qin Feiyang said, "Do you know what these fruits are?" "Do you know?" the black-shirt youth asked. Qin Feiyang frowned slightly. He wanted to test this person. If he didn't know, he could just give him some benefits and get rid of him. However, this person wasn't stupid. Obviously, he had the same plan as him. Fatso frowned and said, "Boss, what are these fruits?" Qin Feiyang didn't answer him. He looked at the black-shirt youth and said, "If you can tell us the information about these fruits, we will share them equally." "Ma San, do you think I am a fool? Even if I don't tell you, you will still get the fruits. Otherwise, as long as I roar, the Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei won't let you go." The black-shirt youth sneered. He Jiao, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and remembered this name. He nodded and said, "Okay, we will share these 3 fruits equally. You should have done this long ago. What a waste of time." He Jiao laughed and walked toward the small tree. Fatso and Qin Feiyang also walked forward at the same time. But at this moment, another white figure quietly came to the top of the mountain. It seemed that he was also looking for something. This was a white-shirt youth. He was about 25 or 26 years old. He was tall and had an extraordinary temperament. When this person saw Qin Feiyang and the other two, he couldn't help but be stunned. However, when he saw the small tree and the fruits, his face suddenly became wild with joy. "This is mine. None of you can touch it." The white-shirt youth shouted and a terrifying pressure suddenly rushed toward the 3 of them. He Jiao was imprisoned in the void on the spot. Qin Feiyang and Fatso also changed their expressions. After opening the gate of potential, this pressure didn't pose any threat to them. However, the strength of this pressure allowed them to determine the cultivation of this person. It was a 7-star combat emperor. This person's strength was secondary. The most important thing was that once this person released his pressure, Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion would definitely be alerted. As expected, the giant scorpion and Zhao Wei immediately stopped fighting and turned to look at the top of the mountain. "Bastard! Damn it!" The giant scorpion roared. Zhao Wei roared. Whoosh! A man and a beast pierced through the sky and rushed toward the top of the mountain. The white-shirt youth's pressure not only alerted them, but also the people around them. They all looked at the top of the mountain in surprise. And they all rose into the sky and rushed toward the top of the mountain at the first moment. "Boss, what should we do?" Fatso frowned. The strongest among these people was a 7-star combat emperor. They weren't afraid. However, if they were to fight seriously, their hidden cultivation would be exposed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. "You 3 trash want to get your hands on this rare treasure. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." At the same time, the white-shirted youth also rushed toward the small tree. His eyes were full of contempt as he looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2. In an instant, he landed beside the small tree. However, he turned a blind eye to Qin Feiyang and the other 2 who were at the side. He directly raised his head to look at Zhao Wei and said with a smile, "Zhao Wei, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have known that such a treasure was hidden here. I really have to thank you properly." "How dare you!" Zhao Wei roared, his face full of anxiety. "I wanted to leave one for you, but after hearing what you said, if I don't take all of them, wouldn't it make me look incompetent? In that case, I won't be polite." The white-shirted youth smiled mockingly and looked down at the 3 fruits. His eyes were full of greed. Immediately, he reached out his big hand and grabbed the fruits without hesitation. His face also showed a bright smile. Fatso and Hijio were also anxious. Especially Hijio. The fruits were already in his mouth, but they fell into the hands of others. He was very unwilling. The white-shirted youth was about to grab the fruits. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he sneered, "Do you really think that these 3 fruits are in your bag?" The white-shirted youth was shocked and instinctively looked at Qin Feiyang. At that moment, he saw Qin Feiyang raise his arm and slap him. How is this possible? The white-shirted youth showed a look of disbelief. Wasn't he imprisoned by the pressure? How could he still move? But this person's temperament was not bad and he came back to his senses in an instant. There was still a trace of contempt in his eyes. "A cowardly trash dares to be rash in front of me? You're courting death." He sneered and the big hand that reached for the fruits suddenly turned in the air and slapped Qin Feiyang's arm. Battle chi gushed out of his palm. There was also a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. "I'd like to see who's the one courting death." Qin Feiyang sneered and a flaming battle chi also emerged from his palm. Boom! In a flash, the 2 big hands met with a loud bang. Puff! Immediately, both of them took half a step back and their faces were a little pale. How is this possible? The white-shirted youth was dumbfounded. Hijio's eyes were wide open and he couldn't believe it. Wasn't this Ma-san a 2-star combat emperor? When did he become so strong? Hee. Chapter 5:13. Fat pig, you're courting death. The man in white was so anxious that his eyes turned red. His aura exploded. He took a step towards Fatso and stretched out his hand like an eagle's claw towards Fatso's head. Hee. Fatso wasn't worried at all. He sneered and hid behind Qin Feiyang. "You're the one courting death." Qin Feiyang's eyes were cold. He didn't want to kill him. However, this man tried to kill him again and again. Did he think that Qin Feiyang was afraid of him? Void returning art, void splitting. He pointed a finger in the air, and an invisible force roared in all directions, covering the sky and the earth as it pounced towards the white-robed man. The murderous intent was bone-piercing. Boom! In an instant, the man in white was drowned by the invisible force. His skin and flesh were torn open and blood splattered everywhere. He let out a shrill scream. So powerful. Hijio saw this and his face was full of fear. He started to run away without looking back. "Weren't you arrogant before? Why are you running away now?" Fatso laughed and kept the 3 fruits in his chinkuan pouch. He then chased after Hijio. "Hand over the fruits." At this moment, An angry roar exploded and resounded through the heavens and earth. Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei came at the same time. Their target was Fatso. Damn, I just took 3 fruits from you. Is there a need to risk your life like this? Fatso's expression changed and he quickly retreated behind Qin Feiyang to seek protection. When Qin Feiyang was a 3-star combat emperor, he dared to fight Dong Qin, who was a 6-star combat emperor. However, Fatso didn't have the guts. Although he was a 5-star combat emperor and had mastered a perfect combat art, he didn't have the courage to face Zhao Wei, who was a 7-star combat emperor, and Giant Scorpion, who was a 9-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang felt helpless about this. However, after being together for so long, he was used to it. Swoosh! Zhao Wei swooped down and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He said, "Hand it over now and I'll spare your lives." In the meantime, the giant scorpion was also hovering above Qin Feiyang and Huang Xiaolong's heads. It said angrily, "You must hand it over to me. If you dare to hand it over to them, you will also die." The man in white, who had been severely injured by Qin Feiyang, suddenly raised his head and looked at the giant scorpion. He shouted, "Beast, don't be so arrogant. I'll take care of you after I've dealt with these 2 trash." After saying this, he took out a healing pill and threw it into his mouth. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the other man with an extremely cold gaze. The others also rushed over, but none of them dared to approach. They surrounded the mountain peak in the air and discussed animatedly. The extremely arrogant man and woman who were originally by the river were also among the crowd. But at this moment, the 2 of them were dumbfounded. Did Ma San and Zhang Lu eat the guts of a leopard? He actually dared to steal Zhao Wei's things? Boss, let's get out of here quickly. After a while, the 3 8-star combat emperors, 9-star combat emperors and 1-star combat ancestors will definitely come. It will be even more troublesome then. Fatso hid behind Qin Feiyang. His face was full of fear. "You're a 5-star combat emperor now. Can't you have some ambition?" Qin Feiyang glared at him fiercely. With Fatso's current strength, he was completely capable of competing with Zhao Wei. But when this guy encountered such a situation, the first thing he thought of was to escape. What a useless ado. That's right. Fat Lord is also a 5-star combat emperor now. What's there to be afraid of? Fatso was stunned, and a trace of confidence appeared on his face. Qin Feiyang was about to say that he had a whole new level of respect for Fatso, but Fatso was very disappointing. He immediately shrunk and said in a low voice, "Boss, this has nothing to do with ambition. Fat Lord is thinking about safety. Get lost." Qin Feiyang angrily shouted in a low voice. He looked at Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion and laughed, "You all want it. Then who should I give it to?" "What? You still dare to be arrogant?" The surrounding crowd was dumbfounded. This Ma San must be tired of living. At the same time, they were puzzled. What exactly did Ma San and Zhang Lu snatch to make Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion so angry? Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion looked at Qin Feiyang and were also puzzled. In the past, when this person saw them, he was like a mouse seeing a cat. Why was he so abnormal now? He was like a different person. Especially his strength, it was at a completely different level from before. Zhao Wei's eyes flashed. He turned to look at the man in white and sneered, "Liang Qing, are you very arrogant? Now if you have the ability, go and get the fruit back. Don't provoke me. It's useless." Liang Qing sneered. Zhao Wei said, "The fruit was lost in your hands. Shouldn't you do it?" The scar was exposed. Liang Qing suddenly became angry out of shame. "Damn human, I'm going to kill you." But at this time, the giant scorpion roared. Its ferocious roar shook the mountains and rivers. Then, its dark giant tail was raised high. A transparent liquid spurted out from the tip and shot toward Qin Feiyang. Obviously, it had lost its patience. Not good, this is its venom. Fatso's face changed. Humph. Qin Feiyang snorted. He raised his hand and waved. A flame battle chi soared into the sky and lit up half of the sky. At this moment, the venom was constantly evaporated. Do it. Zhao Wei growled. His battle chi surged and he rushed toward Qin Feiyang without hesitation. Liang Cheng's eyes flashed with killing intent. He took another healing pill and immediately rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. He grabbed Fatso and rushed into the sky, rushing toward the depths of the mountains. Don't try to escape. Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion roared again and again. They chased after Qin Feiyang with murderous intent. Fatso asked, "Boss, why don't we go to the castle?" Qin Feiyang said, "They are already suspecting us. If we go to the castle, won't we be completely exposed?" Makes sense. Fatso nodded and laughed. "Boss, what exactly is that fruit?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said, "Heart-protecting fruit." Heart-protecting fruit? Fatso frowned, his face full of doubt. You are an alchemist after all. You don't even know about the heart-protecting fruit. Aren't you embarrassed? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Fatso said angrily, "Ever since I followed you, when have you seen Fat Lord refining pills?" Fat Lord sometimes doesn't even remember that he is an alchemist. Alright, I'll take it that I misspoke. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly and said, "You should know about the heart-protecting pill." Fatso said, "Of course Fat Lord knows about this. It is recorded in the alchemy scripture." Speaking of this, Fatso's eyes trembled, and he said in surprise, "Could it be? Even if you don't refine pills, shouldn't you carefully read the alchemy scripture?" Qin Feiyang really didn't know what to say. The alchemy scripture was in the castle. If he took the time to read it, how could he be as ignorant as he was now? The heart-protecting pill has the miraculous effect of repairing the heart. The heart-protecting fruit is the main ingredient to refine the heart-protecting pill. Qin Feiyang explained. I'll go. Fat Lord was strange. Why did he go crazy when he saw this fruit? It turns out that it is the main ingredient to refine the heart-protecting pill. Fatso suddenly understood and then became excited again. He had just arrived in Yunzhou, and not only did he have the news of the 4th grade pill fire, but he also obtained 3 heart-protecting fruits. The Cloud State was truly a blessed land. Suddenly, Fatty frowned again and said, "Since the heart-protecting fruit is so miraculous, shouldn't we dig that small tree away too?" Qin Feiyang asked, "Why?" Fatso said, "Of course, to wait for it to bloom and bear fruit next time. It's not that easy. That small tree needs 30 years to bear fruit. Can you afford to wait? Besides, even if you dig it out, where are you going to plant it?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. 30 years? Fatso was a little stunned, shook his head and said, "Forget it." Today, 30 years later, he didn't even know whether he was alive or dead. What was the use of this thing? Besides, they now had the fire of life. The heart-protecting pill was actually not so important. But it could be sold at a good price. In this world, who would refuse money? Human, if you don't stop, I will let you die without a burial place. Ma-san, Zhang-Lu, you can't escape. If you know what's good for you, hand it over obediently. Considering that we are from the same sect, we can consider letting you go. That's right. If you continue to be stubborn, even if you escape here, you will still die when you return to the inner hall. Furthermore, you will die miserably. Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei chased closely behind. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and turned to look at the 2 people and the beast. Suddenly, he stopped and turned to face Giant Scorpion and Zhao Wei, his eyes shining with a shocking cold light. That's right. Hand over the fruit. Zhao Wei and Zhao Wei sneered. Fatso said disdainfully, "Hand it over? Are you guys dreaming? Then don't blame us for being merciless. Their gazes turned cold and they immediately performed battle arts. Waves of destructive aura suddenly rolled out in this world. Kill! With a shout, two battle arts cut through the sky and blasted towards Qin Feiyang and Zhao Wei. Giant Scorpion was not to be outdone. Its massive body trembled and a vast battle chi roared out, turning into a gigantic wave that covered the sky and overturned mountains and seas. Fatso shrunk his neck and said obsequiously, "Boss, hurry and show them a few moves. Let them see how strong you are." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, but there was a murderous intent spreading out from his body. At that moment, he was like an awakening god of war. Fatso chuckled and retreated to the side. Zhao Wei and Zhao Wei's battle arts and Giant Scorpion's battle chi were about to reach Qin Feiyang. Right at this moment. Boom! The killing intent hidden in Qin Feiyang's body erupted completely. His thick black hair danced behind his head and his clothes rustled. With an incomparably cold expression, he was like a fiend god that was daunting. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." All of a sudden, he raised his arm and pointed forward. Ultimate ruin. An invisible force suddenly appeared and rushed towards the battle arts and battle chi with a destructive aura. Boom! Immediately, a deafening sound rang out in the void. A shocking scene suddenly appeared. The seemingly powerful battle arts and battle chi were crushed into pieces by the invisible force like withered wood. They could not withstand a single blow. Puff! Zhao Wei and Zhao Wei spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time and their faces turned pale. Giant Scorpion's massive body was also trembling non-stop. Its millstone-sized eyes were filled with weakness. How was that possible? When those people who followed along saw this scene, their hearts couldn't help but be filled with shock. However, it was not over yet. After the invisible force destroyed the battle arts and battle chi, it rushed towards Zhao Wei and Giant Scorpion. Chapter 5:14. What a terrifying aura. Why haven't I seen him so ferocious before? The hearts of the spectators trembled. Was this a dream? When did Ma-san become so powerful? Zhao Wei and the Giant Scorpion, who had experienced it personally, were scared out of their wits. They ran away without looking back. Too powerful. Such combat strength was enough to defeat everyone below the War Master level. "I didn't want to kill you, but you're too insensible." Qin Feiyang's face was indifferent. An invisible force surged like a giant beast with its mouth wide open and fangs, drowning the two men and the beast. Ah! Roar! Screams suddenly resounded through the sky. Whether it was Zhao Wei or the Giant Scorpion, they were all covered in blood. Their eyes were full of fear and their hearts were shrouded in deep despair. Zhao Wei shouted pleadingly, "I don't want the fruit anymore, please don't kill me." "I don't want it either." The man in white, Liang Cheng, also hurriedly shouted. "Spineless humans, this emperor swears to die unyielding." The Giant Scorpion looked at the two of them in disdain and suddenly turned to Qin Feiyang, roaring, "Human, even if I die, I will make you pay." "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and stepped toward the Giant Scorpion. The Giant Scorpion was not afraid at all and faced Qin Feiyang head-on. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng fled without looking back. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The Giant Scorpion that was charging towards Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around and caught up to Zhao and Wei in the blink of an eye. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing its eerie white fangs that were more than a meter long. It actually bit off their heads in one bite. Before they could figure out the situation, Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng died. This change not only caught Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng by surprise, but also stunned Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Needless to say, the crowd and the surroundings were all dumbstruck and filled with shock. Wasn't this Giant Scorpion very unyielding? It even despised Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng. Why did it suddenly change sides and kill Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng? Human, wash your neck clean for me, I will kill you sooner or later. After the giant scorpion attacked Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, it immediately turned and fled, leaving behind a fierce voice that echoed between heaven and earth for a long time. When Qin Feiyang reacted, he could only see the giant scorpion's shadow in the sky. Fatso was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. He cursed. This guy is so cunning. Qin Feiyang also shook his head, and Liang Cheng in the previous situation, the giant scorpion and Liang Cheng, the giant scorpion and Liang Cheng and Liang Cheng and Liang Cheng. The giant scorpion must have seen through this, so it pretended to want to fight him to the death. In reality, it was playing a trick to make Zhao and Wei lower their guard. The two of them were extremely stupid. They only cared about running for their lives and completely ignored this terrifying beast. In the end, he was killed by the giant scorpion. Simultaneously. In the face of this scene, Qin Feiyang would definitely be stunned, and the giant scorpion would take the opportunity to slip away. Not only could it kill Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, but it could also take the opportunity to escape. It was really killing two birds with one stone. Now, who dared to say that the beast was stupid? When it came to playing tricks, it was even better than those scheming old foxes. At this moment, this place was silent. Dead. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng are both elites of the inner palace, and they were killed just like that? Are Ma San and Zhang Lu borrowing courage from the heavens? Everyone lowered their heads and looked at the two headless corpses that were falling downwards. Their hearts were filled with shock. Cough cough. Actually, I didn't really want to kill them. I just wanted to scare them. But I didn't expect that they would be killed by the giant scorpion. To be honest, I'm also a victim in this matter. Everyone, you have to testify for me. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said somewhat shyly. Victim? Everyone looked at each other. This bastard, he actually pretended to be innocent? He was too shameless. One of the burly men said, Ma San, although they weren't killed by you, they died because of you. We can't cover for you. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, you can't be like this. We're all from the same sect. We should help each other if we can, right? You still know that we're from the same sect? When you attacked Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng just now, why didn't you care about your relationship with them? Everyone stared at him with righteous indignation. Fatso said angrily, are you blind? Didn't you see that they attacked first? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, yes, I can't just stand there and let them kill me, right? There were dozens of people around, but no one spoke. They were all speechless. Whether you want to testify for me or not depends on your mood. Goodbye. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, turned around with Fatso, and continued to rush into the depths. Is this the attitude of asking for help? Bastard, it's simple and arrogant. The crowd was furious. The man and woman who were arrogant by the river were mixed in the crowd. Looking at the backs of Qin Feiyang and Liang Cheng, their eyes flashed with cold light. The man rolled his eyes and instigated, everyone, quickly spread the news. We must make this arrogant bastard pay the price. The woman nodded and said coldly, killing fellow disciples and robbing treasures, this is an unforgivable crime. Yes. Everyone, quickly spread the news. In an instant, everyone took out the image crystal. Immediately. The news spread wildly in the mountain range. What? Ma San not only killed Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, but also stole some mysterious fruit? He seems to be a 2-star combat emperor. How can he have this ability? The first reaction of those who received the news was disbelief. They thought that someone was playing a prank. But soon, the news was confirmed. Thus, everyone began to form groups and search for Qin Feiyang and Li Yunhong all over the mountain. On the peak of a mountain, Qin Feiyang stood behind a bush and scanned the mountain below. His eyes were filled with thoughts. Where was this 4th-grade alchemy fire hidden? Fatty, on the other hand, was playing with the 3 heart protector fruits. Boss, how much do you think this thing can be sold for after being refined into a pill? As he spoke, his eyes shone brightly. How much do you think it can be sold for with such a miraculous effect of repairing the heart? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. This was simply finding a topic to talk about. A heart protection pill was equivalent to a life. It was so precious that it would not be sold no matter how much money was offered. Even if they did not need it now, they could keep it for a rainy day in the future. Fatso smiled and took out 3 jade boxes. He carefully put them away and asked, "Boss, where are we going next?" "We'll wait here." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Not only was the chance of finding the alchemy fire slim, but it was also a waste of time. It was better to stay here and cultivate while waiting for news. "So you're hiding here." However, at this time, a calm voice sounded behind Qin Feiyang and Fatso. The two frowned and turned their heads. They saw a young man in black standing above the cliff behind them, sizing them up. "Very strong," Fatso whispered. Qin Feiyang nodded. This person's aura was unfathomable. He was at least an 8-star combat emperor. It was very likely that he was a 9-star combat emperor. The young man in black said, "I heard that you killed and robbed from Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng and snatched a magical fruit. Can you show it to me?" "Killed and robbed?" Qin Feiyang immediately raised his eyebrows. Fatso's eyes turned cold and said, "Let me clarify 2 points. First, we didn't kill them. Second, to be able to snatch the fruit is our true ability." The young man in black said, "Then why is everyone saying that you killed and robbed?" "Some people who want to get the fruit but don't have the ability to do so are just spreading rumors." Fatso showed a look of disdain. "Whether it's a rumor or not, I want to see the fruit." The young man in black laughed. His attitude was very tough. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "What if I don't show it to you? Then today, I'm afraid you will be buried here." The young man in black smiled faintly, his eyebrows brimming with confidence. "You?" Fatso raised the corner of his mouth and looked at him playfully. "It seems that after killing Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, your self-confidence has swelled to an uncontrollable level. Now, I'll show you what a real expert is. What is an overwhelming combat strength?" The young man in black laughed. But at the end, his eyes became extremely contemptuous. At the same time, rays of cold light burst out from his eyes. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying aura rushed out from his body like a volcanic eruption. 8-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang muttered. He had never eaten pork, but he had never seen a pig run. Although the strongest in their small team was only a 7-star combat emperor, when they were in the continent's capital, they had seen many 8-star combat emperors, 9-star combat emperors and even war masters. So, from the strength of this person's aura, they could instantly distinguish his true cultivation. Just an 8-star combat emperor, what's there to be arrogant about? Fatso laughed and said, "Boss, I have a favor to ask of you." "Say it," Qin Feiyang said. Fatso said, "Hit his face, hit it hard." "Why?" Qin Feiyang asked. Fatso joked, "Didn't you notice? When he laughs, he's especially despicable." Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the young man in black and nodded. It seems to be so. The conversation between the two of them was not concealed, and every word fell into the ears of the black-clothed youth. His face darkened bit by bit. When Fatso said that he was especially despicable, a trace of ruthlessness crept into his eyes. "Trash who doesn't know what's good for you," he shouted and waved his big hand. His battle chi surged and turned into a dazzling sharp blade. It was more than 100 feet long, like a crescent moon, emitting a shocking sharpness. "High-grade battle art," Qin Feiyang whispered. This person's cultivation was an 8-star combat emperor. With the enhancement of the high-grade battle art, his strength was quite impressive. However, he wanted to kill him with just this little strength? He was simply daydreaming. Clang! Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a red sword aura appeared. Two flaming sword shadows instantly appeared. The sharpness released by the sword shadows was not inferior to the sharp blade. Slash! Qin Feiyang shouted coldly. The two sword shadows whizzed out one after another. The flames lit up the sky and the sharpness tore through the mountains and rivers. Boom! Crack! The first sword shadow and the sharp blade collided. Chapter 5:15. Evenly matched. The black-robed young man was stunned. He originally thought that Qin Feiyang's strength was only a little bit stronger than Zhao Wei's, but he did not expect that Qin Feiyang was actually able to tie with him. Evenly matched? Don't joke around. The show has just begun. Fatso chuckled at the side. The black-robed young man was shocked and his hair stood on end. Clang! The second sword shadow was slashing towards him madly with an ear-piercing buzzing sound. Everywhere it went, the void was distorted. A single sword shadow is equivalent to a fatal blow. What kind of battle technique is this? The black-robed young man was surprised. However, he did not lose his composure. Boom! A large amount of battle chi appeared and condensed into a huge arrow in the void in front of him. The arrow was as thick as a bucket and dozens of meters long. It shone brightly like the stars and its tip emitted a destructive sharpness. Next. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He waved his hand and the arrow trembled in the air and shot towards the sword shadow. Boom! A thunderous sound exploded in the area. The collision of the two created a destructive shockwave that swept in all directions. The nearby majestic mountains and rivers, the towering ancient trees, and the fearful ferocious beasts that were fleeing in fear were as vulnerable as dead wood. In the blink of an eye, the land within a 1-mile radius was razed to the ground and not a single blade of grass was left. Billowing dust covered all directions. In the dust, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Fatso into the ancient castle. Then, he sensed the aura of the black-robed young man and charged over. I didn't expect you to hide so well. The black-robed young man's face was gloomy. He did not dare to hold back and fought with Qin Feiyang crazily. What happened? Hearing the commotion, the people nearby rushed over and surrounded the edge of the battlefield. They scanned the dust in front of them with bewilderment. Who in the world was fighting inside? Whoosh! Soon. Another dozen or so figures rushed over at top speed. There were men and women, fat and thin. However, without exception, the aura they exuded were far superior to the others. Moreover, when the others saw these people, their eyes were filled with reverence. What happened? A rather handsome young man in white asked without turning his head as he scanned the dusty area ahead. We don't know either. Someone immediately replied. The young man in white frowned and raised his hand. Strong winds began to blow in all directions, preparing to blow away the dust and smoke. But at this moment, a painful scream suddenly rang out from within the dust cloud. Following closely, a bloody figure, like a meteor, rushed out of the dust and smoke and shot into the sky. It's him, Mohe. When they saw this person, the expressions of the surrounding crowd changed. In fact, even the pupils of the dozen or so people that had arrived later shrunk. Whoosh! Just as the black-clothed youth rushed out of the smoke, another black-clothed figure rushed out. It was Qin Feiyang. Ma-san. Immediately, everyone's eyes were filled with deep disbelief. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng's defeat was already hard for them to accept. But now, even Mohe, an 8-star combat emperor, was beaten beyond recognition by him. How strong was this guy? Qin Feiyang stood in the void and scanned the surrounding crowd. His gaze lingered on the dozen or so people for a while, but there was not the slightest change in his expression. Moreover, there were no obvious wounds on his body. Whoosh! Without a word, Qin Feiyang turned into a stream of light and rushed into the sky. His big hand was like an eagle's claw, grabbing Mo's neck. What does he want to do? Seeing this, everyone was surprised. Didn't you just say that you want to show me what a real expert is? What is an overwhelming combat power? Is that all? Qin Feiyang grabbed Mo with one hand and the battle chi in his other palm surged. He looked at Mo with disdain. Don't be arrogant too early. Soon you will know the consequences of offending me. Mo growled, his face full of resentment. Is that so? Then I'll send you to hell first. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He raised his arm and slapped Mo's chest. How dare you? Mo roared, but there was a trace of panic on his face. At the same time, the surrounding crowd also changed their expressions. Ma-san, don't hit him. The dozen or so people who came later immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and his arms stopped in the void. What's going on? Could it be that this Mo had some background? Why? You don't dare to fight? Why are you still so arrogant with such little courage? If you have the guts, kill me today. Come on. Seeing that Qin Feiyang had stopped, Mo had a smile on his face. Furthermore, he was shouting non-stop. He was extremely arrogant. So awesome. Qin Feiyang was startled. Then, he immediately slapped Mo's face. A blood-red handprint appeared on Mo's face. You dare to slap me? Mo suddenly showed a look of disbelief. Then, his face was full of resentment and he roared like a madman, I will definitely kill you and make you suffer so much that you will regret being born in this world. Slap. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything else and sent out another slap. Mo screamed and blood gushed out from his nose and mouth. Come on, continue to shout. Qin Feiyang showed his white teeth. Mo roared, little bastard, wait for me. Yes, 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 continue. Qin Feiyang gave Mo another slap and the smile on his face became brighter. Mo did not dare to say anything. Do you think I won't hit you if you don't shout? What a naive child. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He raised his arm and slapped Mo's face one by one. Mo screamed but did not scream. His face quickly swelled up like a pig's head. Now, he couldn't even scream. He could only whimper in grievance. Qin Feiyang also finally stopped. He chuckled and said, still so arrogant? Mo shook his head repeatedly, his eyes full of pleading. Qin Feiyang laughed, wouldn't it have been better if you had done this earlier? Why do you have to make such a big fuss and hurt your face and body? Whoosh. At this time, the dozen or so people flew over and surrounded Qin Feiyang. Ma-san, let him go immediately. Don't think that you have the right to be arrogant just because you have some strength. In front of us, you are not qualified. The dozen or so people looked unfriendly. There were a total of 11 people, 9 7-star combat emperors and 2 8-star combat emperors. In other words, including Zhao Wei and Mo, the 7-star combat emperors and 8-star combat emperors of the inner palace were all present. Qin Feiyang glanced at them and said indifferently, what if I don't let him go? One of them said coldly, don't even think about leaving alive today. Seeing this, Mo lost his patience and roared, why are you still talking nonsense? Quickly kill him. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He sneered, do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? After saying this, his 5 fingers suddenly tightened and he decisively crushed Mo's throat. Blood flowed from his big hand to his arm and dyed the clothes on his arm red. Some of the blood splattered on his face. At this moment, he looked like a merciless killing god. He really killed him? The 11 people were dumbfounded. The inner palace disciples in the distance also looked at the dead Mohe with a dull expression. He even dared to kill Mohe. Who did he borrow the courage from? Crazy. This guy must be crazy. Otherwise, he would never dare to do such a shocking thing. Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to this. He loosened his 5 fingers and Mohe's body fell down. Whoosh! A young man came back to his senses and immediately swooped down, holding Mohe's body and returning to the sky. Is he dead? The other 10 people looked at the young man and asked. He's dead. The young man said in a deep voice. Whoosh! The 11 people immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. The woman in the black silk dress said, "You're not Ma San." Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He smiled faintly and said, "Why do you say that?" The woman in the black dress said, "Ma San is only a 2-star combat emperor. His battle chi and battle art are different from yours." "Who are you? Why did you pretend to be Ma San?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "I'm not Ma San." Damn it. The 11 people's eyes turned cold and they became alert. Don't be so nervous. What I mean is, I'm no longer the Ma San. Now, I'm your nightmare. Do you remember how you bullied me in the past? You don't remember, but I remember it in my heart. Now, I'll take it back little by little. Qin Feiyang laughed. What do you mean? Are you Ma San or not? If you are, how do you explain your cultivation, battle chi, and battle art? The young man yelled. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and shook his head. I've said it so clearly, but you still don't understand. Are you worthy of being the genius of the inner palace? The 11 people couldn't help but look angry. I've been hiding my cultivation in the past. You must be asking why I'm hiding it. To put it nicely, I'm a low-key person. To put it bluntly, I want to see your faces now. Look at your dumbfounded expressions, it's indeed very interesting. As for battle chi, haven't you heard of it before? There's something in the world called dual battle souls. Qin Feiyang joked. What? You've activated double fighting souls? As soon as the words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Not necessarily. Maybe I've activated 3 fighting souls. As for battle arts, maybe I've accumulated good karma in my previous life. I'm so lucky that I got a lot of them by chance. Their grades are not low. Qin Feiyang laughed. The 11 people stared at Qin Feiyang. They no longer doubted Qin Feiyang's identity. They just wanted to know how many fighting souls Qin Feiyang had. How many battle arts did he have? You want to know? Then let's talk with our strength. 1-on-1, all together. You can choose. Qin Feiyang looked at the 11 people provocatively. The young man was furious. However, the woman in the black dress grabbed him and whispered, he killed Mohe. We don't need to do anything. Someone will deal with him. When the young man heard this, a gloating smile appeared in his eyes. Let's go. Chapter 5:16. Phew. Looking at the backs of the 11 people, Qin Feiyang finally heaved a sigh of relief. At least he didn't arouse any suspicion. But this Mohe, what was his background? After the 11 people left, the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They all turned around and left as if they were running for their lives. Nearby, there was a valley that was about 100 feet wide. It was surrounded by mountains and there was only one narrow entrance. And at this moment, the man and woman who instigated everyone to send the message stood in the valley, looking at Qin Feiyang in the sky, their faces filled with disbelief. How could this bastard be so strong? Back then at the riverside, because of the fatty's attitude, they already bore a grudge against Qin Feiyang and the other man. That was why they wanted to kill the two of them. The news also spread out smoothly. Moreover, Mohe found them very quickly. But unexpectedly, the result was Mohe's tragic death. Even an 8-star war emperor was no match for him. Could it be that this cowardly trash was a 9-star war emperor? Su Wei, you even dared to kill Mo He. It's better if we don't provoke him anymore. The woman retracted her gaze and turned to look at the man. Su Wei frowned and said, "What? Are you afraid?" The woman did not deny it. "If I didn't kill Mo He, I would definitely do as you said and not provoke him. But it's different now. Because he killed Mo He, that person will definitely not let him go. Let's just wait and watch the show." Su Wei sneered. At the same time, Qin Feiyang glanced down and locked his gaze on the valley. Because this valley was a very good place to hide. Whiz! He turned into a ray of light and swooped down towards the valley. The woman exclaimed, "Not good, he's flying towards us. Could it be that he's discovered us? Let's go." Su Wei's expression also changed. The two of them immediately fled out of the valley and quickly disappeared into the forest. After a few breaths, Qin Feiyang landed in the valley and looked around. Seeing that there was no one around, he flew up to the cliff and sat cross-legged on a rock, closing his eyes to meditate. In front of him, there was a lush patch of grass that was as tall as a person. It could very well conceal his whereabouts. Outside the valley, the man and woman did not leave. The two of them stood on a branch of a large tree, using the dense leaves to cover their bodies as they looked at the sky above the valley. Time passed by slowly. The next morning, Su Wei finally retracted his gaze and said to the woman beside him, "Since he entered the valley yesterday, he has not appeared again. He should be cultivating in the valley. What do you want to do?" The woman was bewildered. Su Wei said, "I'll keep watch here. You go find Mo Wuxian and tell him the news." The woman frowned. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Su Wei nodded. "Then why don't you just spread the news? Why go through so much trouble? Furthermore, I don't even know where Mo Wuxian is now. How am I supposed to find him?" The woman said. "First of all, if I could directly send a message to Mo Wuxian, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. But we didn't establish a contract with Mo Wuxian. Secondly, if we spread the news like this, Ma San will probably hear about it, and then he will definitely slip away. After all, he has been in the inner palace for so many years. He might have made a few good friends. Thirdly, and this is the most important point, if this news reaches Mo Wuxian's ears from others, then it won't be our credit, and everything we've done will be meaningless. So, we have to tell Mo Wuxian personally." Su Wei said, his eyes shining. "All right, I'll go find him now." The woman pondered for a moment, nodded and said. Then, she jumped down from the tree and flew into the depths of the mountain. Deep in the mountains, on the peak of a giant mountain, the woman in black and the other 11 people stood respectfully at the edge of the cliff. In front of the 11 people, there was a green stone. At this moment, a white-haired young man sat on the green stone. This person was handsome like jade, his eyes were like stars, and he was about 185 meters tall. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his whole body exuded an unfathomable aura. In front of this person, there was a cold corpse. This corpse was Mo He. The white-haired young man looked at Mo He's corpse without any expression on his face, and his eyes were as calm as water. But the more he was like this, the more the woman in black and the others felt afraid. This was because they knew this person too well. The angrier he was, the calmer he was. The peak of the mountain fell into a dead silence, and only the whistling of the wind could be heard. No one knew how long had passed. The white-haired young man looked up at the woman in black and asked, "Who did it?" His voice was full of energy, and there was no sadness in it. The woman in black said, "Senior brother Wuxian, it was Ma San." "Ma San," the white-haired young man pondered for a moment and said, "I'll give you 3 days. If you can't find Ma San's whereabouts, buy a coffin and lie in it." "Yes." The 11 people responded respectfully, and they did not dare to complain at all. The white-haired young man waved his hand and said, go, find a place to bury him. A young man stepped forward, picked up Mohi's corpse, and left with the others. Soon, only the white-haired young man was left. Ma-san, you'll die in 3 days. Are you ready? The white-haired young man whispered and then closed his eyes. The peak of the mountain fell into a dead silence again. 3 days passed very quickly. However, the woman in black and the others did not have any news about Qin Feiyang. In front of a river, the 11 people gathered together, and they were all upset. After a while, the young man spoke first and said angrily, "Aren't you usually smart? Why aren't you talking now?" The woman in black asked, "What are you talking about?" The young man said, "Nonsense, of course we're talking about how to explain to senior brother Wuxian." "That's easy for you to say. Who here doesn't know senior brother Wuxian's temper? As long as he says it, he'll definitely do it. If we go to find him like this, we'll definitely die miserably. Most importantly, even if senior brother Wuxian kills us all, no one will dare to say a word." The woman in the black dress and the others all had worried looks on their faces. The young man frowned and suddenly slapped a huge rock beside him, and shouted, "That damn Ma-san, where is he hiding?" Boom! At the same time, with a loud bang, the huge rock shattered. "Is it useful to be angry now?" The woman in black frowned. "If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, we can't avoid it. Let's go and meet senior brother Wuxian. We can only hope that he'll show us mercy." As the 11 people were about to leave, a woman in a black dress suddenly ran out from the woods on the other side of the river. "Senior brothers and sisters, wait." The woman blurted out as soon as she saw the 11 people. Her face was filled with joy. The 11 of them turned to look at the woman and frowned slightly. "What's the matter?" the young man asked. The woman leapt into the air and landed in front of the 11 people. "I have news about Ma-san. Can you bring me to senior brother Wuxian?" "What? You have news about Ma-san? Really?" The young man and the others were astounded. The woman nodded. Let's go." The 11 people were overjoyed. They immediately brought the woman deeper into the woods. A few hundred breaths later, the group of people arrived at the top of the mountain and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, senior brother Wuxian. Do you have news?" the white-haired young man asked without opening his eyes. "Yes." The woman in black nodded. Whoosh! The white-haired young man rose to his feet and opened his eyes. 2 rays of light burst out from his eyes as he said, "Bring me there at once." The woman hurriedly said, "Senior brother Wuxian, please wait." The white-haired young man turned to look at her. His cold eyes were as sharp as a blade, causing the woman's heart to tremble. She did not dare to look at him directly. The woman in black said, "Senior brother Wuxian, she knows where Ma-san is." The white-haired young man took a deep look at the woman and said, "What's your name?" The woman said, "Senior brother, I'm Yulan." The white-haired young man said, "From now on, you belong to me, Mo Wuxian. You can have whatever you want in the inner hall." "Thank you, senior brother Wuxian." Yulan was overjoyed and quickly bowed to express her gratitude. The white-haired young man added, "But if I can't find Ma-san, I'll kill you." "If I can't find Ma-san, I'm at your mercy." Yulan was full of confidence. With Su Wei monitoring outside the valley, Ma-san would definitely not be able to escape. Then, Yulan opened the teleportation door and a group of people filed in. The next moment, they landed in the jungle outside the valley. When Su Wei saw Mo Wuxian and the others appear, he immediately jumped down from the tree and bowed, "Greetings, senior brothers and sisters." Mo Wuxian ignored him. The others also looked indifferent. Yulan asked, "Su Wei, is he still inside?" Su Wei said, "He didn't come out, he must still be inside." Yulan nodded and turned to look at Mo Wuxian. "Senior brother Wuxian, Ma-san is in this valley." Whoosh! Mo Wuxian immediately turned into a stream of light and went straight to the valley. Su Wei and the others immediately followed. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was cultivating in the valley, suddenly opened his eyes. Why would someone come? Was it a coincidence? Immediately, he restrained his aura and stared at the entrance of the valley. When he saw Mo Wuxian enter the valley, his pupils suddenly shrank. This person's aura was so strong. As Su Wei and the others entered the valley, Qin Feiyang knew that this was not a coincidence. They came prepared. But how did these people know that he was hiding in the valley? At the same time, Mo Wuxian scanned the valley, and his calm eyes gradually became fierce. Swish! Suddenly, Mo Wuxian turned around and locked his eyes on Qin Feiyang's hiding place. I've been discovered? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Mo Wuxian's eyes never moved away. Are you going to come out yourself, or do I have to invite you out? I've actually been discovered. Qin Feiyang suddenly felt incredulous. Chapter 5:17. Su Wei and the rest followed Mo Wuxian's gaze and looked at the bushes in front of Qin Feiyang. Their eyes were extremely unfriendly. Very soon, Mo Wuxian lost his patience. Seems like you want me to invite you out. His gaze turned cold as he pointed his index finger in the air. A ray of dazzling battle qi suddenly pierced through the sky, carrying an astonishing aura as it blasted towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and instantly disappeared without a trace. Boom! Just as his foot disappeared, the battle qi arrived. With a loud bang, the entire mountain was instantly reduced to ashes. Immediately, Mo Wuxian frowned. The woman in black and the rest were also a little stunned. How could there be no one? The young man suddenly shouted, Su Wei, Yulan, what's going on, where is he? The two of them looked forward, their eyes filled with confusion. The young man said angrily, answer me quickly. I don't know either. Yulan shook her head and turned to look at Su Wei. Aren't you here watching all this time? Su Wei said, I've been watching from here, and I haven't left even half a step. I'm sure he's in the valley. Yulan roared, what's the use of being sure? You have to see him. Su Wei also began to panic. Everyone in the inner hall knew Mo Wuxian's character. He was definitely not someone to be trifled with. The young man said coldly, Su Wei, Yulan, you guys really have the guts to lie to senior brother Mo Wuxian. Tell me, how do you want to die? We really didn't lie to senior brother Wuxian. Senior brother Wuxian, please believe us. Su Wei and Yulan trembled as they quickly knelt on the ground and begged. Mo Wuxian ignored them as he scanned the void in front of him, his eyes flickering. Seeing this, the young man's eyes flashed with killing intent as he raised his arm to kill Su Wei and Yulan. Wait. At this moment, Mo Wuxian finally spoke. The young man also immediately stopped and looked at Mo Wuxian in confusion. Mo Wuxian said, I can feel that when I entered the valley, there was a pair of eyes staring at me, so Ma San was indeed here before. The young man and the others were bewildered. Since he was here, why didn't he see anyone else? The woman in black asked, then how did he escape? Mo Wuxian said, I don't know how he escaped, but I'm sure that this Ma San is no longer the Ma San of the past. The woman in the black dress asked, should we continue looking? No need. He will appear. Go and look for the alchemy fire immediately. This will be a very good bait. Mo Wuxian said. Bait? The 11 of them were slightly taken aback, but they immediately understood. Yulan asked carefully, Senior brother Wuxian, what about me and Su Wei? Mo Wuxian's eyes flickered as he looked at the two. The hearts of Yulan and the other two also hung in the air. Before the training ends, follow them. In the end. After saying this, Mo Wuxian soared into the sky and disappeared like a bolt of lightning. Yulan and Su Wei were overjoyed. They stood up and looked at the black-dressed woman and the others. They cupped their hands and said, "Senior brothers and sisters, please take care of us in the future." Take care of? Don't you know who you are? You don't even have the right to carry our shoes, and you still want to be with us? What a joke. The 11 of them were full of sarcasm. Then, they ignored the 2 of them and left. Don't even have the right to carry our shoes, Su Wei muttered to himself. He raised his head and looked at the backs of the 11 of them. He sneered, "Just you wait. Sooner or later, I will trample all of you under my feet." Yulan was also extremely angry. But soon, these emotions were controlled. With a flattering smile, she chased after the 11 of them. In the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of suspicion. Mo Wuxian. Who is this person? Mo Wuxian and Mo he have the same surname. Is there any relationship between the 2 of them? Although he didn't know any of this, from the conversation, this Mo Wuxian, regardless of identity or status, was not comparable to an ordinary inner hall disciple. It seemed that he had to find someone to investigate Mo Wuxian's background. Also, he had to investigate Su Wei and Yulan. They actually dared to spy on him. How reckless. Fatso said from the side, "Boss, you heard it too. They want to use the elixir fire as bait. You have to be careful." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "If I didn't know in advance, I might have fallen into their trap. But now that I know, there's nothing to worry about." Fatso thought for a while and said with a smile, "Now, let's wait for the news." Since Mo Wuxian wanted to set a trap, he would definitely spread the news when he found the elixir fire. Therefore, there was no need to continue the search. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "But I have to go out." Fatso said, "Fat Lord will go too." Qin Feiyang glanced at Fatso. Without saying anything, he left the ancient castle with Fatso. Outside, the dust had dissipated. Fatso looked at the broken ground and said in surprise, "How strong is this Mo Wuxian?" "Very strong," Qin Feiyang said. Judging from his aura, he was definitely not inferior to Yan Nanshan. In other words, this Mo Wuxian was most likely one of the 3 kings of the Cloud State, a battle master level expert. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang soared into the sky and looked around. "Boss, what are you doing?" Fatso looked at him in confusion. "Looking for someone." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned into a ray of light and sped towards the west. "Looking for someone?" Fatty furrowed his eyebrows and quickly followed. About half an hour later, when Qin Feiyang passed by a mountain ridge, he suddenly sensed the fluctuations of a battle. His eyes immediately lit up and he flew towards the place where the battle fluctuation came from. Dozens of breaths later, Qin Feiyang landed on a mountain peak and looked down, only to see 2 young men fighting. One of them was wearing white clothes and was about 1.75 meters tall. He had a dignified appearance and was obviously an alchemist. The other person was wearing black clothes. His body was tall and sturdy with bulging muscles. He was filled with a valiant aura. Qin Feiyang looked at them for a while. Both of them had the same cultivation level, being 3-star combat emperors. Furthermore, both of their battle arts were of high quality. However, the burly man's battle awareness and battle experience were stronger than the alchemist's by a level. Thus, the alchemist was at a disadvantage. But what made Qin Feiyang puzzled was that normally, when they met an alchemist, they would try to curry favor with him, but why would this burly man become enemies with an alchemist? Could it be that another treasure had appeared? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said, "Let's go and take a look." However, just as he was about to take a step forward, his gaze suddenly turned and looked at the cliff below. Halfway up the mountain, there was a protruding rock. It was about 5 to 6 meters tall and was covered with shrubs and weeds. A black figure was sneakily lying in the grass, also paying attention to the battlefield. And the back of this figure was very familiar. Fatty also lowered his head to look, and a trace of suspicion crept into his eyes. It's him. Suddenly, both of their eyes lit up at the same time. This person was the youth in black who fought with them for the heart protection fruit, Biyao. I didn't expect to meet him here. It's really a case of searching high and low only to find it without any effort. Fat Lord, go and capture him. Fatso laughed. Don't alert the enemy. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand to stop him. Although this person looked inconspicuous, he was actually a cunning old fox. He must have his eyes on something. About 100 breaths passed. A scream suddenly rang out. Qin Feiyang looked over and saw that the alchemist had been punched in the heart by the burly man. With a bang, the alchemist was smashed into the ground below and died on the spot. Trash like you want to snatch it from me? You're overestimating yourself. The burly man glanced at the alchemist in disdain. Then, his eyes lit up and he flew towards a lake not far away. At the same time, Biyao got up hurriedly and jumped into the forest below, chasing after the burly man. Qin Feiyang and Fatso exchanged glances, retracted their auras and followed. Before long, the burly man landed in front of the lake. The lake was more than 10,000 feet long and its surface was very calm. The lake was also surrounded by lush vegetation. However, there was a pungent smell of blood in the air. When Qin Feiyang and the fatty got closer to take a look, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. On the surface of the lake, there were hundreds of corpses of aquatic beasts of various sizes. The lake water was dyed red and it was a shocking sight. Judging from the wounds, they were killed not long ago. Dong! The burly man glanced at the corpses of the aquatic beasts on the surface of the lake and jumped in without hesitation. Fatso asked suspiciously, why is that burly man not surprised at all when he looks at those corpses? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, those aquatic beasts should have been killed by the burly man and the alchemist together. You mean that they first discovered the treasure in the lake and worked together to get rid of the aquatic beasts in the lake. Then, they got greedy and wanted to take it for themselves? Fatso asked. That should be the case, Qin Feiyang said. However, he was not sure since he did not witness it with his own eyes. Fatso believed him and his eyes shone with greed. In that case, there must be some shocking treasure in the lake. We'll know if there's any treasure when the burly man comes out. After Qin Feiyang said that, he looked at Biyao who was in front. Biyao was hiding in a bush 100 meters away and was also staring at the lake with greed in his eyes. All of a sudden, he moved again and moved towards the lake. Soon, Biyao walked to the lakeside and hid behind a rock. He took out a dagger and his face was filled with murderous intent. Fatso was stunned and said, he's planning to kill and steal the treasure. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This man is indeed treacherous, Qin Feiyang whispered. Although the burly man killed the alchemist, he was also badly injured. Biyao was a 3-star combat emperor and his strength was not inferior to the burly man. Plus, it was a sneak attack and he could definitely kill the burly man with one strike. Dong! 100 breaths passed. The surface of the lake suddenly exploded and the burly man rushed out from the waves with a palm-sized iron box in his hand. I finally got it. Chapter 5:18. Looking at the iron box in the burly man's hand, Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other in surprise. What kind of treasure could make this man so excited? Whoosh! Finally, Biyao launched a sneak attack. The dagger in his arm suddenly jumped out from behind the rock and went straight to the burly man in the sky. The burly man who was immersed in ecstasy suddenly quivered and looked down at Biyao. Why are you here? Immediately, the burly man was slightly stunned. He never thought that there would be someone hiding near the lake. It was also because of this moment that he fell into eternal damnation. One had to know. Biyao came prepared. The burly man was completely unprepared. If he counterattacked at the first moment, he might be able to escape. But now, he couldn't escape. Puff! Hijio rushed forward and the dagger in his hand shone brightly like a poisonous snake showing its fangs. With a puff, it went into the burly man's heart. Suddenly, blood splattered in the sky. The burly man screamed in pain and the iron box in his hand fell out of his hand. Hijio pulled out the dagger and ignored the burly man and went straight to the iron box. Whoosh! At this moment, Qin Feiyang also moved. He used the phantom steps and quickly landed beside the iron box like a flash of lightning. His big hand reached out and grabbed the iron box first. After all, he was a 7-star combat emperor. And Hijio was only a 3-star combat emperor. There was a difference of 4 levels. Moreover, the phantom steps was a perfect auxiliary combat skill that could increase his speed by 4 times. Although the distance between him and the metal box was greater than the distance between Hijio and the metal box, Hijio's overwhelming speed made it impossible for him to snatch the metal box in front of him. Hijio was stunned on the spot. Why was there still someone else? How dare he snatch his item? Did he want to die? A glint of killing intent appeared in his eyes. However, when he looked at Qin Feiyang, his gaze immediately trembled, and fear that couldn't be removed crawled up his face. As for the burly man, he had already died and fell into the lake. Whoosh! At this moment, Fatso also rushed over. He ignored Hijio and stared at the iron box in Qin Feiyang's hand. He said anxiously, "Boss, what is it?" When Qin Feiyang was about to open the iron box, Hijio said anxiously, "This is mine. You can't be so overbearing." "Yours?" Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at him playfully. Fatso chuckled and said, "Brat, we saw you kill and rob with our own eyes. You still dare to say that? Saw it with your own eyes?" Hijio was taken aback, and his face was filled with disbelief. "To tell you the truth, when the big man and the alchemist were killing each other, we were already here. We just didn't say anything." Fatso teased. Hijio said angrily, "You are despicable." "Despicable? No matter how despicable we are not as despicable as you. Stay there and don't move. Otherwise, don't blame me, Fat Lord, for being merciless." Fatso smiled disdainfully and lowered his head to look at the iron box. Qin Feiyang opened the iron box, and a palm-sized jade slip suddenly appeared in front of them. Battle art. Fatso's eyes lit up. He immediately grabbed the jade slip and immersed his mind into it to read it. However, soon, his face was filled with disappointment. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Fuck, Fat Lord thought it was a perfect battle art." He was full of expectations, but it's only an upper-tier battle art. Fatso was furious. He threw the jade slip to Qin Feiyang as if he was throwing trash. His face was filled with disdain. An upper-tier battle art? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He caught the jade slip and checked it. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Just as Fatso said, it was only an upper-tier battle art. However, it was not completely worthless. Because it was an auxiliary battle art. Seeing their expressions, Hijio was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He roared, "Don't pretend to be innocent after getting a bargain." "What do you mean?" Fatso frowned. "Bastard, still pretending? I don't believe that you don't know the value of an auxiliary battle art." Hijio said angrily. Qin Feiyang and Hijio were dumbfounded. Thinking about it carefully, their current words and actions did seem to be pretentious. How should they put it? Auxiliary battle arts were extremely rare treasures in places like the 9 continents. Even if it was a low-tier auxiliary battle art, it would still cause people to go crazy over it. Let alone an upper-tier auxiliary battle art. In other words, an upper-tier auxiliary battle art in the 9 continents was a priceless treasure that could not even be bought with gold coins. But now, Hijio was naturally unhappy that he and Fatso showed some disdain. Of course, Hijio did not know the situation. If he knew that Qin Feiyang had mastered a perfect auxiliary battle art, he would definitely be petrified on the spot. Hijio looked at the two and said gloomily, "Since you don't care about it, give it to me. In your dreams. Even if we throw it away, we won't give it to a villain like you." Fatso sneered. Hijio's eyes darkened. "What? You want to fight? Come on, let's settle the score from last time." A cold light flashed in Fatso's eyes. He reached out his hand and grabbed at Hijio's head like an eagle's claw. Hijio suddenly realized something. He was so angry that he forgot the strength of these two people in front of him. Even Zhao Wei, Liang Cheng, and Mo He were no match for Ma San. Wasn't he looking for death by challenging them? In an instant, his eyes were full of fear. Seeing that Fatso was about to crush Hijio's head, Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed Fatso's wrist. He shook his head and said, "I have something to ask." Fatso withdrew his hand and stared at Hijio. He sneered. "I'll let you live a little longer." Hijio's eyes trembled and his face turned pale. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Don't be nervous. As long as you answer me honestly, I promise I won't kill you. What's the relationship between Mo Wuxian and Mo He? How come you don't even know this?" Hijio was surprised. Fatso's face twitched. He said angrily, "We asked you to answer, not to ask. Do you believe that fat lord will kill you now?" Hijio's body trembled. He hurriedly said, "Mo Wuxian is Mo He's elder brother." "I see." Qin Feiyang mumbled. No wonder Mo Wuxian went to such lengths to kill him. He asked again, "What's the background of this Mo Wuxian?" "He has a great background. Not only is he the eldest son of the Mo family, but he's also the personal disciple of the Mansion Master. And he's the strongest of the 3 King Realm Masters. Inner Hall disciples like us don't dare to provoke him," Hijio said. In other words, he was impressed by Qin Feiyang's courage. He actually killed Mo Wuxian's younger brother. This was undoubtedly a challenge to the Grim Reaper. The Mansion Master's disciple? Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other. They didn't expect this person's background to be so shocking. "Is the Mo family very strong?" Fatso frowned. Hijio nodded. "Very strong. They're the most powerful family in Yunzhou." Fatso swallowed and said in a low voice, "Boss, it seems like we're in big trouble." Qin Feiyang felt the same. But there was nothing to be afraid of. They could just leave after getting the alchemy fire. He didn't believe that the Mo family of Yunzhou would dare to go to Lingzhou. Moreover, even if they went to Lingzhou, it would be useless. Because the people of Yunzhou didn't even know who he was. After thinking for a while, Qin Feiyang asked, "Are Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng also powerful?" "Yes." Hijio nodded. The Zhao family and the Liang family are also super families. They both have combat masters in their families. "Boss, you're really a jinx. No matter where you go, you'll offend super forces." Fatso looked at him with disdain. "Get lost." Qin Feiyang glared at him and looked at Hijio. "Last question. Who are Su Wei and Yulan?" "They're just small fries like me. But Su Wei is luckier than me. He's an alchemist, but he only has level 5 spiritual power." Hijio looked at him with disdain. Qin Feiyang asked, "What do they look like?" "What? He doesn't even know this. Is Ma San suffering from amnesia?" Hijio was shocked and suspicious. Could it be that the two people in front of him were impersonators? "Do you want to die?" Fatso's eyes turned cold. Hijio's expression changed. He waved his hand hurriedly and his battle aura condensed into 2 figures. "It's them." Qin Feiyang and the fatty raised their heads to look, and their eyes immediately emitted a cold light. They didn't bother to pursue the matter at the riverside. But they didn't expect that they would dare to plot against them. They were really courting death. At this moment, He Jiao suddenly looked behind Qin Feiyang and Fatso. His expression became respectful and he said, "Greetings, senior brother Wuxian." Qin Feiyang and Fatso were shocked and they quickly turned around. But where was Mo Wuxian? Not even a shadow could be seen. Fooled. They quickly turned around and saw He Jiao running towards the mountain in front without looking back. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They remembered that they used to fool others with this trick. And they had successfully avoided many disasters. They didn't expect that they would be fooled by this trick today. This guy was really a cunning old man. However, was it possible for a mere 3-star combat emperor to slip away in front of them? Whoosh! Qin Feiyang waved his hand and swept up Fatso. He used the phantom step and chased after He Jiao. He Jiao looked back and he was scared out of his wits. What a fast speed! In the blink of an eye, he had shortened the distance by half. What to do? If this continued, they wouldn't be able to escape. Suddenly, a black figure appeared in front of them. It was a young man in black. He was tall and straight. His eyebrows were as sharp as swords. Why would he come here? Seeing the young man in black, He Jiao's expression changed. His eyes were filled with horror and fear. But then, his eyes lit up and he shouted, "Senior brother Niayu, Ma San and Zhang Lu found a superior auxiliary battle art." Qin Feiyang and Fatso frowned. They followed He Jiao's gaze and saw the young man in black. Their bodies and minds suddenly tightened. This was another elite. His aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. Superior auxiliary battle art. At the same time, the young man in black also looked at He Jiao. His eyes were shining. Then, his gaze went past He Jiao and locked onto Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Whoosh! The next moment, the black-clothed young man began to use a mysterious footwork, and his speed suddenly doubled. Chapter 5:19. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he cupped one hand in the other before his chest. "Senior brother Niayu, what can I do for you?" Niayu said, "Hand over the superior auxiliary skill." Skill? Qin Feiyang paused and shook his head. "I don't have it." "Then who has it?" Niayu frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "He Jiao has it." He Jiao, who was standing behind to watch the show, suddenly changed his expression and said angrily, "Ma San, don't talk nonsense. The skill is with you." Qin Feiyang said calmly, "If I have it, why would I chase you?" Hearing that, Niayu pondered for a while and suddenly turned to look at He Jiao. His eyes flashed with shocking light. He Jiao quickly took out his Qinkuan bag and said, "Senior brother Niayu, the skill is really not with me. You can search it if you don't believe me." Seeing that, Niayu's eyes flashed and he looked at Qin Feiyang and He Jiao, saying, "Give me your Qinkuan bag too." "Search my Qinkuan bag?" Qin Feiyang paused and said helplessly, "Well, I admit that the skill is with me. But I got it with my own ability. Are you going to rob me? I took it from you with my own ability too. But it's not so easy now. You not only have to give me the skill, but also kneel down and kowtow to me. This is the price for fooling me." Niayu looked arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed a touch of coldness and he said with a smile, "In this case, I'll say something. If you kneel down and kowtow to me now, I'll spare your life." What? Is this bastard out of his mind? How dare he talk back to senior brother Niayu? He Jiao, who was behind, was shocked in his heart. At the same time, Niayu also showed a trace of anger and said, "You think you have the strength to sweep the inner hall after defeating Emohi? Now I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant in front of me." Boom! After that, A terrifying pressure rushed out of his body and pounced towards Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu with the force of a landslide. 9-star combat emperor. Fatso's pupils contracted. Qin Feiyang's expression didn't change at all. He smiled faintly and said, "If it's just this level of pressure, I'm afraid it's not enough." Yu raised his eyebrows. What was going on? How could he be so relaxed under his pressure? Boom! The next moment, his body shook, and his oppressive might abruptly intensified, firmly locking onto Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Can you get any stronger?" "This is impossible." Yu's body and mind immediately trembled. This was the full extent of his pressure, yet it was still unable to restrain this person. Could this Ma-san also be a 9-star combat emperor? When Hijio saw this, he was even more frightened. Without hesitation, he turned around and rushed down the mountain. "Don't go, let's make out." Fatso chuckled, turned into a stream of light and swooped down, chasing after Hijio. But at the same time, Yu also swooped down, looking for Fatso to catch him. "Damn, last time Zhao Wei was like this, now you're like this. Does Fat Lord have a grudge against you?" Fatso was furious and hurriedly turned around and flew toward Qin Feiyang. When snatching the heart protection fruit, Fatso wanted to kill Hijio, but at the critical moment, Zhao Wei arrived and he failed to do so. Unexpectedly, this time, Yu came to stop him again. This made him very angry. But he also knew that Yu came to him, not really to stop him from killing Hijio. Instead, he wanted to capture him and threaten Qin Feiyang. Therefore, he decisively gave up chasing Hijio and flew toward Qin Feiyang. He didn't want to be a burden to Qin Feiyang. "You want to leave? How naive." Yu sneered secretly. His speed was unbelievably fast, catching up with Fatso in the blink of an eye. His big hand violently reached out, grabbing toward Fatso. Humph. However, at this moment, a cold snort sounded. Qin Feiyang also landed beside Fatso, the battle chi in his palm surging, and he slapped toward Yu's chest. How can he be so fast? Yu was shocked. The big hand that was grabbing toward Fatso turned in the air, and a bright battle chi emerged from his palm. Boom! The two big hands collided with a loud bang. A thunderous sound exploded in the area. Furthermore, with the two of them as the center, a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. Qin Feiyang immediately mobilized his battle chi and condensed it into a battle chi boundary to protect Fatso behind him. But the mountains and rivers below were severely destroyed. Within a 1-mile radius, whether it was the mountains or the beasts, they were all crushed into pieces by the airwave. This scene was like the end of the world. It was terrifying. Pfft! The two of them were in a stalemate for 3 breaths. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew out. Fatso was not spared either. He was sent flying, and blood spurted out of his mouth. However, with the protection of the battle chi boundary, there was no danger to his life. He was only seriously injured. Yu laughed coldly and said disdainfully, "I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you only have this much strength." Boom! Qin Feiyang took a step into the air and stabilized his body. His gaze was like a blade, becoming incomparably sharp, and said, "Just this bit of strength is enough to kill you." After he finished speaking, with a wave of his hand, the scarlet sword chi surged, and 3 sword shadows instantly appeared out of thin air, making clanging sounds. "Kill!" Following Qin Feiyang's low shout, the 3 sword shadows immediately whistled towards Yu. "Your cultivation is only at the 7 stars, War Emperor. It's fine to kill trash like Zhao Wei, but in front of me, it's useless." Yu shook his head. Whether it was his face or his eyes, they were filled with contempt. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang laughed coldly. The 3 sword shadows carried a terrifying sharpness, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived above Niayu's head. But at this moment, Niayu's battle chi surged, and actually condensed into a set of armor, covering his entire body, leaving only a pair of eyes exposed. The armor emitted a dazzling light. After the armor appeared, Niayu stood there. Not only did he not counterattack, he even crossed his arms over his chest, and the corner of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. Clang clang. The first sword shadow arrived and slashed towards Niayu's right shoulder. When the sword shadow and the armor met, an ear-piercing metallic sound was heard. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned. What kind of armor was this? It could actually block the Guiyuan sword art? Are you surprised? Let me tell you, this is not an ordinary armor. This is a battle armor evolved from a superior battle art. Its defensive power is not inferior to a real battle armor in the slightest. Even if it was someone at the same level as me, it would take 2 full-strength attacks to break through the defense. And your cultivation level is lower than mine by a small level. Even if I stand here and don't fight back, you can't do anything to me. Niayu smiled, and his smile was very bright. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood, and then the corner of his mouth pursed into a sneer. He admitted that the defense of this armor was indeed very powerful. If it was another 7-star combat emperor today, they would not be able to break it. But he was different. He had 2 perfect battle arts, and his combat power was not inferior to Niayu's. Breaking the defense of this armor was a piece of cake. In the blink of an eye, the second sword shadow arrived and once again slashed the armor on Niayu's right shoulder. Niayu was still calm, without the slightest bit of nervousness or worry, and was full of confidence. But all of a sudden, accompanied by a crisp cracking sound, a crack appeared on his armor. At that moment, Niayu's eyes were filled with surprise. He hurriedly lowered his head to look at his right shoulder, and his eyes suddenly widened. It actually cracked. How could this be? Wasn't he a 7-star combat emperor? How could he have such strength? Could it be that this was a perfect battle art? Impossible. The highest level of battle art in Yunzhou was superior battle art. A perfect battle art was simply a legend. Something must have gone wrong somewhere. Just as Niayu was in a daze, the third sword shadow slashed down like lightning. Crack. The armor was completely shattered, and suddenly, a bloody light burst out. Niayu's right arm was cut off on the spot. The heart-wrenching pain was like a tide, attacking every nerve in his body, causing him to scream in pain. Aya, what's going on? Didn't you say that only people of the same level can break your defense? Why is his arm cut off now? Fatso, who was standing not far away, reached out to touch his chin, revealing a suspicious look. But his eyes were filled with ridicule. Obviously, he was secretly mocking Niayu. Damn it, I'm going to kill you all. Niayu was completely enraged, and his face was distorted, looking incomparably ferocious. Roar. Accompanied by an earth-shattering beast roar, a huge ferocious beast rose from behind him. That was a brute elephant. Its body was dozens of feet tall, like a mountain in the sky, and its ferocious aura was intimidating in all directions. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You're showing your battle soul so early. Does it mean that you've exhausted all your abilities? Die. Niayu roared, and his body was full of murderous intent. The brute elephant battle soul suddenly swooped down from the sky toward Qin Feiyang like a meteorite. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Without seeing him do anything, a red sword aura emerged from his body, turned into a vast ocean, and surged into the sky. Clang. In an instant, 10 sword shadows appeared in the world. Waves of fire surged, and flames rolled, illuminating half of the sky and earth. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and 10 sword shadows fell from the sky, slashing toward the brute elephant battle soul. Boom! A loud explosion suddenly exploded. The brute elephant battle soul was annihilated on the spot. Niayu's body and mind trembled, and blood spurted from his mouth, and his face was as pale as paper. But there was still one sword shadow left. Clang! The sword shadow did not stop at all, and cut across the sky, slashing toward Niayu like lightning. Ah! A shrill scream resounded through the sky. Niayu's 7-foot body was cut in half on the spot, and his blood flowed like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. What? Even Senior Niayu is no match for him. In a forest far away, Hijio hid in a bush, looking at Qin Feiyang in the sky, and his face was full of horror. Especially the look in his eyes, as if he was looking at a devil. He was hiding here because he wanted to see if he could pick up a bargain. But he did not expect to see such a scene. The 9-star War Emperor Niayu, the one with a light mouth under the War Master, was actually dismembered by a single slash. Whoosh! When he came back to his senses, Hijio did not dare to stay any longer. He turned around and began to flee. He was scared out of his wits. The current Ma-san was too terrifying. Chapter 520. High up in the sky. After killing Niayu, Qin Feiyang's heart did not waver in the slightest. Because if you don't kill him, he will kill you, and he won't show any mercy. TSK. Boss's current strength can be said to be the number 1 person below the War Master. Fatso was secretly speechless at the side. You know, Qin Feiyang was not even 20 years old yet, and he was already so strong. If he were to wait another 10 or 20 years, wouldn't he be even more amazing? Of course. Fatso was also completely confident in himself. In another 10 or 20 years, he would definitely have astonishing achievements. The source of his confidence was the door of potential. Most importantly, he had followed the right person. If he hadn't shamelessly followed Qin Feiyang back then, he would probably still be in Black Bear City, unknown to the public. Who? Qin Feiyang exhaled, looked at Fatso and laughed. Let's go, find a place to go into seclusion. He felt helpless in his heart. He had always wanted to go into seclusion to cultivate, but there was always trouble. Seclusion? Fatso was startled, and asked, what about Hijio? Hijio was obviously suspecting their identities. If word got out, it would not be good for them. He's a smart man. He knows what to say and what not to say. Qin Feiyang smiled and flew towards the depths of the mountain range. Smart man? Fatty furrowed his brows, then chuckled and turned to follow him. A moment later, the two of them landed on top of a huge peak. This place was filled with towering ancient trees and weeds. Furthermore, the giant peak was very tall, more than 1,000 feet tall. Standing at the edge of the cliff, one's field of vision was very wide. Not only could he hide, he could also monitor his surroundings. Qin Feiyang jumped onto a piece of bluestone and looked around. He was quite satisfied with this place. Then, he sat cross-legged on the bluestone and closed his eyes to cultivate. Fatso stood at the side and dawdled for a moment, then said, Boss, can you give the superior auxiliary battle art that you just obtained to Fat Lord? Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked at him in confusion. Last time in the Forgotten Land, the perfect battle art that Madame gave Lu Hong was a slaughter battle art, so Fat Lord wants to give her a support battle art. Fatso blushed and said shyly. Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso strangely. Could it be that Fatso had fallen in love with Lu Hong? If that was the case, it would be a good thing. Fatso felt uncomfortable being stared at like this. Just as he was about to explode, Qin Feiyang took out a jade slip and tossed it to Fatso. Thank you, boss. Immediately, Fatso was overjoyed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He directly sent Fatso to the castle. It seemed that Fatso was really in love. However, it wasn't that he discriminated against Fatso, but with Fatso's figure, would Lu Hong like him? If he wanted to win the beauty's heart, he had to lose weight. At the same time, The news of Niayu's death spread throughout the Spirit Cloud mountain range. This news was even more sensational than the death of Mo He and Zhao Wei. Those who knew about this were shocked beyond words. Even a 9-star combat emperor died in the hands of Ma San. Was this person trying to defy the heavens? It was fine if he didn't make a sound, but once he did, he would amaze everyone. No one would have thought that the once cowardly, incompetent, and cowardly person would actually be this powerful. Beside a river, 2 young men stood side by side. Both of them wore black robes and had outstanding looks. Especially with their extraordinary temperament, one could tell that they weren't ordinary people at first glance. The inner palace is going to change. Yes, Ma San appeared out of nowhere and killed Niayu. The situation is bound to change. Now, not only us, even Mo Wuxian and the other 2 felt threatened by this person. The 2 of them looked at the sky. Their deep eyes seemed to be able to see through the future and see through everything. At the same time, in the sky above a forest deep within the mountain range, 2 men and a woman stood facing each other. Gusts of wind blew past, lifting up their long hair and clothes. From afar, they looked like 3 dazzling suns, making people feel intimidated. Mo Wuxian, you went to find him. What do you think of his strength? I didn't fight him head-on. It seems that Ma San has been hiding his strength and biding his time. We have completely ignored him before. So what? He dared to kill my brother. He won't be able to walk out of the Spirit Cloud mountain range alive. I also think that we should get rid of Ma San. With his character and means, he will definitely be a threat to us in the future. If that's the case, let's join forces. After all, there can only be 3 kings in the inner palace, not 1 more. A cold light flashed across their eyes at the same time. Then, they turned around and left. At the same time, someone deliberately spread the news of Niayu and the others' deaths to the capital of the Cloud State. As long as there were people, people would talk about it. The families behind Niayu, Mo He, Zhao Wei, and Liang Qing were, without a doubt, enraged. The old monsters of the 4 families immediately went to the Yun State Mansion Master to reason with him. However, the Yun State Mansion Master was indifferent to this matter. Helpless, the people of the 4 families could only bear with it for the time being. Time flew by. 7 months passed. There were only 5 months left before the Battle of the 9 States. In these 7 months, no one went to look for Qin Feiyang. They were all looking for the elixir fire. Even so, Qin Feiyang was often disturbed. These people were the old master, Yan Nanshan, Yin Yuanming, Lu Yun, and Ren Wushuang. They would send him messages every now and then. In the beginning, Qin Feiyang patiently explained and comforted them. However, in the end, he could not take it anymore. He directly threw the image crystal into his Qingquan bag and ignored it. He immersed himself in cultivation. After 7 months of hard work, his cultivation finally ushered in a breakthrough. Boom! On this day, his aura, which had been dormant for several months, suddenly exploded. The giant mountain below him could not withstand this aura and instantly shattered. Billowing dust and smoke rose into the sky and covered all directions. The sound of the explosion was deafening. The ferocious beasts nearby were all shocked and fled in panic. Whoosh! Soon, a black figure rushed out from the dust and smoke. It was Qin Feiyang. He stood in the sky like a god of war. The battle aura around him was like a rainbow. His long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. A terrifying aura rolled in all directions. 8-star combat emperor. Feeling the surging battle aura and power in his body, he could not help but clench his fists tightly. His resolute face was filled with determination. Mother, Uncle Yuan, did you see this? I'm not even 20 years old and I've already stepped into the 8-star combat emperor. I'm even faster than my ancestor. Don't worry, I won't let you down. He muttered to himself. His eyes flickered. Then, he restrained his aura and pulled Fatso out. Fatso sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment and said with a grin, "Boss, Fat Lord is about to catch up with you. You have to work hard." Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. After carefully observing for a moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. This damn Fatso was already a 7-star combat emperor. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Although Fatso's talent was not as good as his, he had opened the 4th level of the Gate of Potential. Naturally, his cultivation speed was not comparable to his current cultivation speed. Qin Feiyang asked, "Has the white-eyed wolf broken through to the 9-star combat emperor?" 7 months ago, Wolf King was already a 7-star combat emperor. After 7 months of seclusion, Wolf King's cultivation must have had a great breakthrough. Not yet, but it will be soon. I estimate that it will take at most half a month. Fatso said sourly. No matter how hard he tried, he could not catch up with Wolf King. They had both opened the 4th level of the Gate of Potential. Why was the gap so big? You should be satisfied. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said, "Now, can you tell me why you came to Yunzhou?" Fatso immediately fell silent. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said lightly, "If you don't want to say it, then forget it." "Boss, Fatso wanted to say something but stopped, as if he was worried about something. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said solemnly, "Boss, no matter why I came to Yunzhou, you can rest assured that I, Fat Lord, will not harm you." Qin Feiyang believed in this. He smiled faintly and said, "Let's go and ask if there is any news about the alchemy fire." Whoosh! The two of them flew into the depths of the mountain side by side. However, an hour had passed and they did not meet anyone on the way. That's strange. Where did they go? Fatso frowned. That's not strange. Everyone guessed that the alchemy fire was hidden in the depths of the mountain. Now that 7 months have passed, everyone must have gone there. Qin Feiyang used the phantom steps and quickly disappeared into the sky with Fatso. Half a month later, the two of them finally met an inner hall disciple. Coincidentally, it was He Jiao again. At the peak of the mountain ahead, He Jiao was lying on a smooth rock. He had a green foxtail in his mouth and his hands were behind his head. His eyes were slightly closed as he basked in the sun comfortably. This guy really knows how to enjoy himself. Fatso smirked. Qin Feiyang smiled. Whoosh! The two of them flew across the sky toward the peak of the mountain. Someone's there. When the two of them were close to the peak of the mountain, He Jiao suddenly opened his eyes. He put his hands on the ground and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Why did we meet them again? Immediately, He Jiao's expression changed and he got up to escape. Boom! Fatso smirked. His aura surged out and directly imprisoned He Jiao there. Whoosh! With a burst of air-rending sound, Qin Feiyang and Fatso landed in front of He Jiao. The fatty smiled sinisterly and said, "Brat, we meet again. This is fate. Bullshit fate. I'm so unlucky." He Jiao cursed in his heart, but his face was full of flattery. He nodded and said, "Yes, yes, yes. Fate can't be stopped. Since that's the case, we have to make out today. Otherwise, we'll be letting down the fate that God has given us. Don't you think so?" Fatso rubbed his hands and grinned. He looked like a weasel with a malicious expression. He Jiao's expression changed and he said flatteringly, "Senior brother, my sexual orientation is very normal. I don't think we should make out." Fatso's face twitched and he was speechless. Was he trying to say that a certain aspect of him was abnormal? He Jiao was very good at reading people's expressions. When he saw Fatso's face darkened, he quickly changed the topic and said with a smile, "Senior brothers, if you have any questions, just ask. I promise to tell you everything I know." Fatso was stunned and said helplessly, "You're quite sensible. Only those who know what's good for them can live longer." Chapter 521. Qin Feiyang looked at the scoundrel youth in front of him with a trace of admiration in his eyes. Only those who know their place can live longer. This saying was simple and easy to understand. However, there were only a few people who could do it. Biyao was able to do it, which meant that he had a high level of awareness. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and asked, "You didn't tell anyone, did you?" Biyao's pupils shrunk and a trace of panic appeared on his face. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and his expression became unfriendly. Seeing this, Biyao's body tensed up and he hurriedly said, "I only told the others that you killed Miayu. I didn't say anything else." "That's still true," Fatso sneered. Battle chi surged out of his palm and a strand of killing intent spread out. Qin Feiyang stopped Fatso and looked at Biyao with a smile. "It doesn't matter. Even if you didn't say anything, others would have guessed it. Thank you for your generosity." Biyao quickly thanked him. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is there any news about the alchemy fire?" "No. Everyone has been looking for it for the past few months, but there's been no news." Biyao shook his head. Qin Feiyang frowned. 7 months had passed, no, including the half a month they had been on the road, 7.5 months had passed. However, there was still no news. Where was the alchemy fire hidden? Fatso was also annoyed. He looked at Biyao and said, "Why don't you go and look for it?" "Me?" Biyao smiled bitterly. "Why would I go and look for it? I'm just a 3-star combat emperor. There are beasts that are stronger than me in the deeper regions. If I go there, I'll die. Besides, even if I'm lucky enough to find the alchemy fire, the 3 kings won't let me take it out of the spirit cloud mountain. So, instead of wasting my time, I'd rather stay here and enjoy the good times. At the same time, I can keep my life," Biyao said. Qin Feiyang looked at Biyao in a new light again. Not only was this fellow treacherous, he was also very smart. Fatso glanced at Biyao, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Boss, we can't keep waiting like this. How about we take the initiative to find them?" "How do we find him?" "The Spirit Cloud mountain range connects the cloud state and the spirit state. It's vast and boundless. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack for the 2 of us," Qin Feiyang said. Beside him, Biyao asked in surprise, "Senior brother Ma wants the alchemy fire too?" Qin Feiyang nodded. It was not that he wanted it, but that he was determined to get it. Biyao's heart skipped a beat. He smiled obsequiously and said, "How about this? I'll help you find out, as long as you let me go." "How did you find out?" Fatso frowned. "Although I don't know where the alchemy fire is, I have connections with many people. As long as the alchemy fire appears, I will definitely receive the news immediately." Biyao patted his chest and said. Qin Feiyang looked at Biyao, his eyes flickering. After a while, he nodded and said, "If you can really find it, I'll let you go." "Thank you, senior brother." Biyao was overjoyed. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Fatso. Fatso understood and restrained his aura. Biyao did not dare to delay any longer. He immediately took out an image crystal and contacted his friends and best friends. Qin Feiyang and Fatso retreated to the side and watched silently. One had to admit that Biyao had a wide network. He contacted more than 50 people. And most of them were stronger than him. Half an hour later, Biyao finally put away the image crystal and looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled obsequiously. "Now we just need to wait for the news." Qin Feiyang nodded. Since he had nothing to do, he simply sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes to cultivate. Another half a month passed like this. There were only 4 months left before the great battle of the 9 states. Early in the morning, the horizon was white. The sun rose slowly, and the mountains and rivers were dyed red. Buzz! Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound from the image crystal. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked at Hijio. Fatso, who was next to him, was also energized. There was a trace of anticipation in his eyes. Hijio looked at the two of them and took out an image crystal. He poured his battle chi into it and a shadow quickly appeared. It was also a young man in black. He was more than 1.7 meters tall and looked very ordinary. He had a common face. Seeing this person, Hijio hurriedly asked, "How is it? Any news?" "Yes. The 3 great kings found the alchemy fire in a canyon." The young man in black said excitedly. "Heard about it." Qin Feiyang and Fatso suddenly stood up. Hijio also breathed a sigh of relief. He was finally safe. Then he became excited and asked, "Where is the alchemy fire now?" The young man in black said, "It's still in the canyon." Hijio was slightly stunned. He asked suspiciously, "Since the 3 great kings found the alchemy fire, why didn't they take it away?" This was also the question in Qin Feiyang and Fatso's hearts. There's a War Master level beast in the canyon. It's stronger than the 3 great kings. It won't be easy for them to get it. The young man in black said gloatingly. Stronger than them? Hijio was shocked and said, "Are you sure you're not lying to me?" "Why would I lie to you? I saw it with my own eyes. The 3 great kings fought with that beast. In the end, they were beaten to the point of vomiting blood in one move. However, the canyon has been sealed by the 3 great kings. Small characters like us can't even think about getting close." The young man in black said with a trace of unwillingness in his tone. Sigh. Hijio also let out a long sigh. How precious was a 4th grade alchemy fire. If he could get it, he would definitely soar into the sky. But facing the 3 powerful great kings, with his strength, he had no chance at all. Fatso also frowned and asked in a low voice, "Boss, how do we get it?" "Let's go take a look at the canyon first." Qin Feiyang raised his arm and waved his index finger in the air for a while. Then, 2 big words formed by battle chi quickly appeared in the air. Canyon coordinates. Seeing these 2 words, Hijio looked up at the young man in black and smiled. "Can you give me the coordinates of the canyon?" The young man in black was surprised and asked, "What? You want to get the alchemy fire?" Hijio smiled bitterly, "I don't have the guts. I just want to join in the fun." The young man in black looked at him suspiciously and said, "I can give you the coordinates. But if you get something good, don't forget about me." Of course, of course." Hijio nodded. After the young man in black told him the coordinates of the canyon, Hijio turned off the image crystal, then turned to Qin Feiyang and Fatso, and said, "You heard it. Are you sure you want to go? How do we know if there's a chance if we don't go and see?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he opened a portal and walked in without hesitation. Fatso took another step toward the portal, but suddenly stopped in front of it. He turned to look at Hijio with a smile, and said, "It's going to be fun later. Want to go together?" Hijio shook his head without hesitation. Although after half a month of getting along, Fatso's attitude toward him was much better than before, he still felt that Fatso was up to no good. Fatso was not surprised. He smiled and turned back to enter the portal. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang and Fatso appeared in a strange place. Here, there were overlapping mountains and lush ancient trees. Between the mountains, there was a river, like a giant python, winding across the north, south, east, and west. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and Fatso were standing on one of the banks of the river. Qin Feiyang looked at the river. The turbulent river water was like a torrent of beasts, setting off huge waves that were more than 10 meters high. And underwater, he could clearly sense the aura of many fierce beasts. Moreover, the weakest was the War Emperor. Even he could not estimate the strongest aura. From this, it was very likely that there were water beasts of the War Master realm lurking in the river. On both sides of the river, there were primordial forests. There were also many powerful fierce beasts auras inside. To be honest, without the cultivation of a 5-star war emperor, it would be very difficult to survive here. Where's the canyon? Fatty looked around, and his brows gradually furrowed into a ball. Other than the desolate forest, giant peaks, and fierce beasts, there was no canyon at all. Had he been fooled? Quick, quick, quick! The canyon is over there. Suddenly, a series of shouts rang out. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He grabbed Fatso and hid in the nearby forest, whispering, "Restrain your aura." Very quickly, a group of people passed through the forest and flew towards the other side of the river. There were a total of 15 people, all of them young men and women. Some were dressed in white, while others were dressed in black. Their cultivation was all above the 4-star war emperor. After watching the group of people leave, Fatso retracted his gaze and asked in confusion, "Boss, you have already broken through to the 8-star war emperor. With the addition of the battle formula and the return formula, you are completely capable of fighting against the 3 great kings. Is there a need to hide like this?" Qin Feiyang said, "Mo Wuxian has been waiting for me. If he knows that I am here, he will definitely come to kill me. Although I am not afraid of him now, this will affect my ability to snatch the pill fire." Fatso suddenly understood. Indeed. Under the circumstances where the 3 great kings did not know, it would undoubtedly be easier to snatch the pill fire. "Let's go, follow them." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, turned into a ray of light, and rushed out of the forest. Fatso followed closely behind. Very quickly, the two of them crossed the river and entered the forest on the other side. Then, without any hesitation, they followed behind the 15 people and rushed forward silently. Not long after the two of them disappeared on the other side of the river, a young man in black appeared out of thin air. It was Hee-Jiao. Hee. 4th grade pill fire, I will not give it up until the end. Ma-san, this time I would like to see who is the real Oriole. He laughed in a low voice and immediately flew towards the other side of the river. And like Qin Feiyang, he also chose to enter the forest and sneak over quietly. In the forest, Qin Feiyang and Hee-Jiao were very careful and did not make any noise. Fatso looked up at the 15 people in the sky and sneered, "You know that someone is blocking the valley, but you still dare to fly over from the sky. What a group of idiots." Qin Feiyang smiled but did not say anything. "Stop right there." Sure enough, about 100 breaths later, a violent shout suddenly exploded in the sky. The 15 people flying in the sky immediately stopped, their eyes full of fear. Qin Feiyang also stopped and looked up. He saw a young man standing in the sky in front of him, glancing at the 15 people. His eyes were extremely unfriendly. Qin Feiyang frowned. He had seen this person before. When he killed Mo He, it was this person who caught Mo He's body. There was no doubt that this person must be Mo Wuxian's man. And he should be blocking the valley, which meant that the valley was in front of them. Chapter 522. At the same time, a dispute broke out in the sky. Why can't we go to the canyon? The palace master has said that everyone has the right to fight for the alchemy, fire, and auxiliary combat arts. Is there any justice in your actions? The 15 men were filled with righteous indignation. The 3 kings had gone too far. They had sealed off the canyon. Wasn't this cutting off their hope? You do have the right to fight for it, but do you have the strength to do so? Get lost now, or don't blame me for being merciless. The young man shouted, his eyes flashing with strong killing intent. We won't leave until we reach the canyon. You are an 8-star combat emperor, but you are willing to be their pawn. Do you have any dignity? I am ashamed of you. The 15 men were seething with anger and their words became more and more intense. As soon as these words were spoken, it undoubtedly infuriated the burly young man. Who would be willing to be someone else's pawn? Who wouldn't want a 4th grade alchemy fire? But they had to have the strength to do so. Without sufficient strength, if one wanted to survive in the inner hall and go higher and further, then one had to compromise. Otherwise, only death would await. Boom! The young man's body shook, and a majestic aura rushed out, covering the sky and the earth as it pressed down on the 15 people. Immediately, most of the people were frightened and began to retreat involuntarily. Don't retreat. We have to show the 3 kings that we are people with guts. Yes. For our dignity, we have to fight to the end even if we are like moths to a flame. The 4 young men shouted. They were all 6-star combat emperors, 2 levels lower than the young man. However, they were not afraid at all. Their aura soared and they rushed toward the young man. In the forest. Qin Feiyang stopped again. He raised his head and looked at the 4 people in surprise. Unyielding, and unforgiving. Who would have thought that there would be such guts in Yunzhou? It's all for the alchemy fire. If it was something worthless, do you think they would dare to fight? Their current actions have nothing to do with courage at all. At best, they're just acting out of desperation. The fatty said in disdain as his lips curled into a mocking smile. Even so, your courage is commendable. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he spoke. Boom! Suddenly, he raised his hand and pointed in the air. An invisible force turned into a world-destroying dragon that roared into the sky and drowned the young man in an instant. Immediately, a blood-curdling scream resounded through the sky. The young man died on the spot, and his blood dyed the sky red. Whoosh! After killing the young man, Qin Feiyang did not stay any longer. He grabbed Fatso and shot forward. Fatso frowned. Boss, why are you doing this? Why? Of course, it's to make it easier for me to snatch the alchemy fire and create some trouble for the 3 kings. Qin Feiyang sneered. Although the 3 great kings were powerful, they were still far from being able to scheme against him. High in the sky, the 15 people looked at each other. What was going on? Who killed the young man? Whoosh! When they came back to their senses, they lowered their heads and scanned the forest below, their eyes full of surprise. Who was it? The young man was an 8-star combat emperor, but he was killed in one move. Who was so powerful? Forget it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's go. That's right. With the help of this mysterious expert, we will definitely be able to enter the canyon. Follow us and rush in. The 4 young men roared and turned into streaks of light as they charged forward. The other 11 people looked at each other, gritted their teeth and followed them. At the same time, in the forest below, Jiao was hiding in a bush, his face full of suspicion. Who could it be? Could it be them? Yes, it must be Ma San and Zhang Lu. Only they could kill an 8-star combat emperor easily. In other words, the 2 of them were in front of him. Now, as long as he followed the 2 of them and was careful, he would not be in any danger. Jiao chuckled and followed them silently. At the same time, a few miles ahead, there was a huge canyon. However, in the void 1,000 meters away from the canyon, there were more than 30 young men and women standing against the wind. Their auras were extremely powerful. The lady in the black dress and the others were among them. However, at this moment, these people were looking in the direction of the young man, their eyes full of suspicion. At the same time, in the northwest direction of the canyon, there was a giant mountain. This mountain was about 1,000 meters away from the canyon. At this moment, 4 young men and a young woman were standing on the peak of the giant mountain, looking in the direction of the young man. Their eyes were shining with cold light. The auras of these 5 people were unfathomable. The young woman said, "Mo Wushan, is it Ma San? In the entire inner palace, only the 5 of us and Niayu can kill Yuan Wu in one move. Niayu is dead and we are all here. Who else could it be other than Ma San?" Mo Wuxian clenched his fists and his eyes were as sharp as blades. The young woman frowned and said, I didn't expect him to receive the news so quickly. I was afraid that he wouldn't come. Mo Wuxian smiled coldly and looked at the two young men in black beside him. He said, you two go and have a look. Us? The two of them were stunned and frowned. The young woman said, if you don't go, do the three of us have to go? Just go, don't talk so much nonsense. The third person said. This was a burly man. His body was 8 feet tall, like a small giant, and his body was full of explosive power. This burly man, Mo Wuxian and the young woman were the 3 kings of the inner palace. As for the 2 young men in black, they were 9-star combat emperors and their positions in the inner palace were slightly lower than Mo Wuxian and the other 2. Seeing the attitude of Mo Wuxian and the other 2, the 2 of them looked at each other and a cold light flashed in their eyes. However, they hid it well and Mo Wuxian and the other 2 did not notice it. One of them looked at Mo Wuxian and the other 2 and asked, what should we do with the 15 people? Kill. The burly man said without hesitation, revealing a ruthless and cold aura. Swoosh. The 2 of them did not hesitate and soared into the sky, flying towards the 15 people. After distancing themselves from Mo Wuxian and the other 2, the young man in black on the left said, Lu Yunfeng, they are sending us to our deaths. I know. The young man in black on the right nodded, a cold light flashed in his eyes and he whispered, Pei Sanshi, we can't go on like this, we must fight back. The young man on the left asked, how do we fight back? Lu Yunfeng said, Ma San was able to kill Niayu. It is enough to show that he is not weaker than us. Let's go and find him to cooperate. Your idea is good, but it is not feasible. No matter how strong Ma San is, can he be stronger than a battle master? If we work with him rashly, we will definitely be dragged into the water. Let's endure it for now. When we enter the battle master, there will be plenty of opportunities to settle the score with Mo Wuxian and the others. Pei Sanshi said with a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. Hearing this, Lu Yunfeng frowned but did not say anything. After all, Pei Sanshi's concerns were not without reason. Oh no. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi are flying towards us. They must be here to kill us. In the sky, when the 15 people saw Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi, their expressions changed. They stopped in unison and glanced at the forest below from the corner of their eyes. Who knew if that mysterious expert would help them again? Whoosh! Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi stopped in front of the 15 people. Pei Sanshi said in a deep voice, Mo Wuxian and the others asked us to kill you. If you don't want to die, leave immediately. Senior brother Pei, senior brother Lu, Yuan Wu is Mo Wuxian's lackey. It is reasonable for him to listen to Mo Wuxian's orders. But you are all 9-star combat emperors. Why do you have to listen to them? What right do they have to order you? Senior brothers, wake up. Even if you help them, you will not get any benefits in the end. The 15 of them tried their best to persuade him. The 2 were silent. How could they not know this? But Mo Wuxian and the other 2's strength were in front of them. What could they do? Lu Yunfeng sighed deeply and waved his hand, go quickly. The alchemy fire is not something you can touch. It is not worth it to lose your life. What are you 2 hesitating for? Do it quickly. The strong man's voice sounded from the mountain peak. The 15 people were terrified. Go quickly. Pei Sanshi roared at the 15 people. The 15 people did not dare to hesitate any longer. They turned around and ran for their lives. Pei Sanshi and Pei Sanshi were relieved. It was not that they had a benevolent heart. They did this to win people's hearts and make plans for the future. Because the lowest cultivation level of these 15 people was a 4-star combat emperor. Although they were not as strong as them, they were still the elites of the inner palace. In time, when they broke through to the war master and called out, these 15 people would definitely submit to them and follow their lead. At that time, they would naturally have the ability to fight against Mo Wuxian and the other two. This scene was clearly seen by Qin Feiyang and Pei Sanshi, who were hiding in the forest below. Fatso's eyes flashed and he whispered, "Boss, these two people can be used." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and shook his head. People who can reach this level are not stupid. Suddenly, Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi rushed down and flew towards the forest. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and Fatso quickly retracted their aura and hid in a 2-meter-tall bush. After entering the forest, Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi split up and searched the forest. A few breaths passed. Pei Sanshi's gaze suddenly fell on the bush. His eyes flashed. "Have we been discovered?" Fatso's body tensed up and he did not dare to breathe. But after a while, Pei Sanshi retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Yunfeng, who was not far away. "I did not find Ma San." Lu Yunfeng glanced around and shook his head. "I did not find any trace of him either. He should have left." Whoosh. Then, the two gathered together. Pei Sanshi whispered in Lu Yunfeng's ear. Immediately, Lu Yunfeng looked meaningfully at the shrubs, then soared into the sky with Pei Sanshi and flew towards the giant peak. They did not discover us even though they are so close. Chapter 523. No. I'm sure that our whereabouts have been exposed. Qin Feiyang followed him out of the bushes, his eyes gleaming. If that's the case, why didn't they make a move? Is it because they don't have the confidence to kill us and don't want to alert the enemy, so they went to ask Mo Wuxian and the other two for help? Fatso was surprised. I don't think so. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Fatso frowned, and suddenly his eyes lit up. He said in surprise, "Could it be that they are also very dissatisfied with Mo Wuxian and the other two, so they pretended not to notice us?" Qin Feiyang said, "You're not stupid. They are actually trying to be friendly with us." Friendly? If that's the case, why didn't they talk to us face to face? Maybe we can cooperate? Fatso was puzzled. Because they don't dare. Mo Wuxian and the other two are all battle masters. They don't believe that I can defeat them, so they don't dare to make this bet. However, they don't want to offend me, so they chose to ignore it. Of course, they also have their own plans. When I arrive at the canyon, I will definitely fight with Mo Wuxian and the other two, and they can find an opportunity to snatch the alchemy fire. And if our whereabouts are exposed now, with Mo Wuxian and the other two above us, they won't have the slightest chance. Qin Feiyang said. "TSK, TSK, TSK. They are indeed a bunch of cunning old foxes." Fatso was speechless. Yes, these people are not simple. The battle of the 9 states may be a tough battle. I just don't know how the two kings of our spiritual state are doing. Qin Feiyang whispered with a trace of worry between his brows. He had interacted with Dong Xingyang before, and he was not a simple character. However, he didn't even know the names of the other two kings, so he really couldn't judge. "What are you afraid of? With Fat Lord and Brother Wolf helping you, people like Mo Wuxian are a piece of cake." Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyang glanced at him, and couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. That was right. In terms of strength, the white-eyed wolf would definitely surpass everyone else in the future. When it came to scheming, he and Fatso had never been afraid of anyone. What was there to worry about? In an instant, Qin Feiyang's heart calmed down. He raised his head to look at Lu Yunfeng and Fatso before continuing to rush forward with Fatso. At the peak of the giant mountain, Lu Yunfeng and the other two landed in front of Mo Wuxian and the other two. Slap. Without saying a word, the brawny man stepped forward and slapped Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi. The two of them touched their burning faces, and a strong anger rose in their hearts as they glared at the burly man. "I told you to kill them, but you let them go on your own accord. Now you even dare to glare at me. Do you want to die? Do you want me to fulfill your wish now?" The brawny man roared angrily, his body full of hostility. Lu Yunfeng suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Senior Brother Yan, we are all fellow disciples of the same sect. Why do you have to kill us all? Bullshit. How can trash like them be worthy of being our fellow disciples? Not to mention them, even the two of you are only worthy of being a dog by our side. What is it? You're not convinced? The brawny man spoke viciously as he stared at the two of them with a face full of ridicule and disdain. I don't dare. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher lowered their heads, but their hearts were already filled with anger. The young woman glanced at the two of them, her eyes flashing slightly as she smiled and said, Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sancher, did you secretly let those 15 people go because you wanted to make plans for the future? As soon as these words were spoken, Mo Wuxian and the brawny man's gazes immediately darkened. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanchi's pupils also constricted, and a trace of panic crawled up their faces. Fortunately, he had his head lowered and was not discovered by the three of them. Senior Sister Pan, we definitely don't have such thoughts. We just don't want to kill the innocent. Senior Sister Pan, Senior Brother Mo, Senior Brother Yan, please take a look. The two of them hurriedly said. Is that so? The young woman looked at the two of them playfully. Lu Yunfeng said, we are speaking the truth. Heaven and earth can testify. Don't think that we will believe you just because you say so. However, it doesn't matter even if you are planning for the future. After all, ants will always be ants. Even if we give you a chance, you won't be able to do anything. Speak, did you find Ma San? Mo Wuxian said indifferently, his expression full of contempt. No. Maybe because he saw us go, he slipped away. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher said. So that's all there is to it. The brawny man smiled disdainfully as he looked at Mo Wuxian and said, right now, killing Ma San is secondary. The main thing is to think of a way to kill that beast first. The young woman also nodded. Mo Wuxian pondered for a moment and nodded, all right, let's kill it first. However, when we fight with it, we must be careful of Ma San's sneak attack. I'm sure he won't give up just like that. The brawny man said, I think you're overthinking it. Mo Wuxian raised his eyebrows. Don't misunderstand, I don't mean to offend you. I just want to say that Ma San hasn't reached the battle sect yet. He won't dare to sneak attack us. Because without us, he won't be able to kill that beast, let alone get the alchemy fire. So when we're fighting with that beast, we can completely ignore him. Only when the battle is over, we have to be careful of his sneak attack. The brawny man spoke with assurance, his rough face was brimming with confidence. Mo Wuxian thought carefully and nodded, that makes sense. All right, prepare for the team battle immediately. The young woman looked at Mo Wuxian and said, you make the arrangements. All right. Later, the three of us will restrain it from the front. Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sancher, the two of you will lead the 8-star combat emperors and 7-star combat emperors to assist from the side. Before the battle, I will give you enough supreme grade pills. Don't be stingy. Once you're injured, take it immediately. As for those below 6-star combat emperors, they're just cannon fodder. They won't be of much use in the battle. Just let them monitor the surroundings. If you find Ma San's whereabouts, send out a signal immediately. Mo Wuxian said. The brawny man, the young woman, Lu Yunfeng, and Pei Sancher nodded with a dignified expression. Pei Sancher shouted, 8-star combat emperors, 7-star combat emperors, gather here immediately. The rest of you, stay where you are. Whoosh! Immediately, 10 figures flew towards the giant peak. In the forest below, Qin Feiyang stopped and looked at the peak of the mountain in surprise. It seems that Mo Wuxian and the others are there. But why did they ask the 8-star combat emperors and 7-star combat emperors to gather? Fatso's face was full of suspicion. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said in surprise, could it be that they're here to encircle and annihilate us? Is that so? Qin Feiyang frowned. His eyes suddenly lit up and he said, they should be preparing to kill the beast in the canyon. Don't dawdle, let's go to the canyon quickly. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, he rolled up Fatso and used the phantom steps to speed through the forest. Without the 7-star combat emperors and 8-star combat emperors, he didn't hold back his speed. Because those 6-star combat emperors couldn't detect him at all. Dozens of breaths passed. Qin Feiyang finally saw the canyon. The canyon was very big, occupying half a mile. Behind it and on its left and right sides were giant peaks that reached the clouds. The entrance in front was quite wide and was covered with weeds and shrubs. But because it was too low, they couldn't see the situation inside. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang took Fatso to the back of the canyon and flew silently to the peak of the mountain. They lay down in the weeds at the edge of the cliff and looked down. Immediately, their pupils shrank. At the bottom of the canyon, there was a giant creature. Its body was 50 to 60 meters long and its whole body was as red as fire. Its 2 eyes were bigger than millstones and looked as if they were made of molten lava. They were emitting a terrifying and ominous light. Ju, it's actually a fire dragon. Looking at the gigantic creature, the fatty stuttered, his eyes filled with fear. A fire dragon was a flood dragon. According to legend, once a flood dragon became a god and passed the divine tribulation, it would become a real divine dragon. It would soar beyond the 9 heavens and have the power to destroy the world. Although the fire dragon in front of them hadn't reached the legendary realm, its aura was like a vast ocean that couldn't be seen through. Boss, are you sure we want to fight with it? Fatso's face was pale and he was trembling. Qin Feiyang said, it's not us who want to fight with it, it's Mo Wuxian and the others. We just need to watch the show. To be honest, he didn't want to fight with the fire dragon. Because judging from its aura, this guy's cultivation was not inferior to the Lu family's ancestor. One had to know that old monster Lu was a 2-star combat ancestor. This beast's cultivation was very likely to be a 3-star combat ancestor or even a 4-star combat ancestor. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the fatty also let out a heartfelt sigh of relief. He then asked, then where is the pill fire? Qin Feiyang scanned the fire flood dragon's surroundings, and a suspicious look gradually crept onto his face. There was no sign of the alchemy fire near the fire dragon. There was also no iron box or anything like that. Could it be somewhere else? His gaze shifted away again. But in the end, he searched more than half of the canyon, including the cliffs on both sides, but there was no sign of the alchemy fire. Strange? Qin Feiyang frowned. If Mo Wuxian and the others could find the alchemy fire, it meant that the alchemy fire wasn't hidden very well. But why couldn't they find it? Whoosh! At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw more than 10 figures rushing out from the peak of the giant mountain. They then rushed towards the canyon. Qin Feiyang looked at them one by one. There were a total of 15 people. The leaders were Mo Wuxian and the other 2. Next were Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sancher, and the woman in the black dress. The last 9 people were all 7-star combat emperors. Fatso scanned the 15 people and asked, who is Mo Wuxian? Half a year ago, when Mo Wuxian went to the valley to kill Qin Feiyang, Fatso was at the ancient castle, so he didn't know what Mo Wuxian looked like. Qin Feiyang said, it's the white-haired young man who is leading them. Fatso looked and said in surprise, he is also an alchemist. Mo Wuxian was wearing a long white robe. Coupled with his long white hair, there was an invisible air of transcendence. His mental strength is probably not low. Qin Feiyang whispered. The personal disciple of the Yun State Prefecture Master, the number 1 person in the inner hall, how could he be a simple person? No matter how strong his mental strength is, can it be compared to yours? Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He said in a low voice, don't talk. It looks like they are going to attack soon. Chapter 524. Mo Wuxian and the rest of the 15 quickly arrived above the canyon. 3 great kings, 2 9-star combat emperors, 1 8-star combat emperor, and 9 7-star combat emperors. However, when they looked at the fire dragon in the canyon, their faces were heavy. Suddenly, the 15 of them raised their eyebrows and scanned the canyon in bewilderment. Where's the pill fire? Where did you hide the pill fire? Finally, the 15 of them looked at the fire dragon in unison, their faces full of anger. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were bewildered. Swish. At the same time, the fire dragon also raised its head and looked at Mo Wuxian and the others, its huge eyes filled with a shocking murderous light. Speak quickly. Otherwise, I'll peel off your skin, pull out your tendons, chop you into pieces, and throw you into a frying pan. The brawny man said sternly. Puny human, do you have the ability? There's no harm in this emperor telling you. The pill fire is now in this emperor's body. If you have the ability, come and take it. The fire dragon glanced at the 15 of them, its eyes full of contempt. What? Everyone's expression changed. You actually swallowed the pill fire, damn evil creature, spit it out. Mo Wuxian was furious. As an alchemist, other than the pill formula, what was more important than the pill fire? So this time, he was determined to get the pill fire. You've entered this emperor's stomach, and you want this emperor to spit it out? Are you joking? The fire dragon looked at Mo Wuxian mockingly. One man and one beast confronted each other, and the atmosphere gradually froze. At this time, Fatso retracted his gaze, turned to look at Qin Feiyang, and asked suspiciously, Boss, why did the fire dragon swallow the pill fire? Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, and said in a low voice, It is said that the fire dragon is born with the ability to control flames, and the energy of the pill fire is of great help to its cultivation. Fatty said, Then doesn't that mean we have to kill it to get the alchemy fire? Qin Feiyang nodded. This fire dragon was also smart, it actually swallowed it directly into its stomach. In this way, whether it was Mo Wuxian or them, the difficulty of snatching it would undoubtedly increase. What are you waiting for? Let's kill it. The brawny man said sharply. Yes. The young woman nodded and said, After we kill it, we can cut open its stomach and take it out. Hearing this, Mo Wuxian's eyes were filled with killing intent as he shouted, Attack! The auras of the 3 martial emperors exploded like volcanoes. Myriad manifestations of ice. The young woman stretched out a slender finger and pointed it in the air. Immediately, streaks of frost gushed out from her fingertip. Following closely, the ice and frost flowed upwards like a waterfall and gathered above the young woman's head, forming a huge vortex. Woo-woo. The cold wind howled. Cold air spread out in all directions, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if winter had arrived in this world, and the cold air was piercing to the bone. 7 killing formula. In the meantime, Mo Wuxian's body was also shrouded in blood energy. His entire aura changed drastically. If it was said that he was an otherworldly god before, then he was now a demon bathed in blood. Heaven wind technique. Meanwhile, the brawny man roared, and a yellow battle chi gushed out from his body. At this moment, he looked more burly and stronger than before. His bulging muscles were filled with explosive power. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The 3 of them activated their battle arts, and the terrifying aura shook the void and the earth. Their strength is not simple. Looking at Mo Wuxian and the other 2, Fatso's pupils constricted, and he was full of fear. No matter how strong they are no match for the fire dragon. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He had been paying attention to the fire dragon. In fact, the fire dragon could have taken the initiative to stop the 3 of them from using their battle arts. But the fire dragon only looked at the 3 of them and did not make any moves. Its eyes were still full of contempt. This was enough to show that it was full of confidence. Are you done? If you are, hurry up and don't delay my sleep. As expected. The fire dragon did not put Mo Wuxian and the others in its eyes. In the face of such naked contempt, Mo Wuxian and the other two could not help but grit their teeth. Heaven Wind Technique, Battle Armor. The brawny man dived and took the lead to launch a strong attack. The battle chi around his body also condensed into a set of yellow armor that covered his entire body. Although the armor was formed by battle chi, it was thick and sturdy, as if it was made of divine iron. No matter how thick your skin is, it can't resist my tail. The fire dragon looked at the brawny man with contempt and raised its huge tail to slap the brawny man. Don't be arrogant. The brawny man frowned and threw a punch at the huge tail. Boom! When the two met, the mountains and rivers changed color. The terrifying fluctuations of the battle were like a torrent of beasts, destroying everything in all directions. The huge canyon was razed to the ground in an instant. Qin Feiyang also brought Fatso and hid in the ancient castle. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. The battle between battle masters could easily destroy mountains and rivers. It was too terrifying, and they could not get too close. Outside, billowing dust and smoke covered the sky and earth. In the dust and smoke, the brawny man's fist and the fire dragon's huge tail collided tightly, and they were in a stalemate. But the stalemate did not last long. About 3 breaths. Poof! The brawny man's face suddenly turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. His fist was torn open. Crack! The armor on his body also began to shatter. With just this bit of strength, you dare to challenge this emperor? Aren't you courting death? You should have realized that I didn't kill you last time. Unfortunately, you are too ignorant. You still want the alchemy fire. Do you have the ability to do so? Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish today. The fire dragon smiled disdainfully and raised its thick tail. With an ear-piercing whistling sound, it slapped the brawny man again. At this moment, the void was distorted and deformed. One could imagine how shocking the strength was. Humph! I was only testing your strength last time. Now, I'll let you see my true strength. Heaven Wind Technique, Battle Shield. The brawny man's hair fluttered in anger. Khaki battle chi emerged and the broken armor was instantly repaired. At the same time, a 2-meter-tall battle shield was condensed in front of him. It emitted a heavy aura. The brawny man grabbed the battle shield and did not advance. Instead, he retreated and collided with the giant tail again. Clang! The giant tail hit the battle shield and an earth-shattering sound tore the brawny man's eardrums on the spot. 2 arrows of blood shot out. At the same time, the brawny man's body suddenly sank. Not only were his internal organs injured, the muscles on his arms were also torn. Cracks also appeared on the battle shield. Roar! Seeing that the battle shield was about to shatter, the brawny man bared his teeth and let out a beast-like roar. The khaki battle chi broke out of his body like a tide and rushed toward the battle shield. Immediately, the battle shield began to repair bit by bit. The brawny man also stabilized his sinking body. Although he was seriously injured, he still blocked the power of the giant tail. He can't block it for long. Quick! 7-kill cut, blood blade. Seeing this, Mo Wuxian's gaze darkened as killing intent surged from his body. In an instant, it condensed into a blood-red blade. Kill! Following his angry roar, the blood-red blade cut through the sky and slashed towards the head of the fire dragon. The killing intent released by the blood blade was incomparably shocking, filling every corner of this world. Ice Sky 1000 Elephants, first move, Ice Elephant's Fury. The young woman also shouted in a low voice. Moo! The roar of a barbarian elephant sounded from the vortex above her head. Immediately after, a giant elephant rushed out from the vortex. Its body was dozens of meters long, like a huge mountain. Its entire body seemed to be condensed from ice, crystal clear. Its ferocious might shocked everyone. The moment the giant elephant appeared, it immediately roared towards the head of the fire dragon. "Beast, be destroyed." At the same time, Lu Yunfeng and the others also attacked with all their might, evolving all kinds of supreme battle arts as they charged towards the fire dragon. For a moment, in this place, all kinds of battle chi streaked across the sky. The power of the various battle arts was earth-shattering. The mountains and rivers within a mile of land collapsed one after another, as if doomsday had arrived. The fierce beasts in this area ushered in a devastating disaster. And those who were hiding in the distance, such as Jiao, who wanted to fish in troubled waters, all changed color when they saw this situation. They turned around and fled for their lives. A group of ants, want to overturn the sky? The fire dragon glanced at those battle arts with disdain in its eyes. The next moment, the giant tail that was pressing down on the shield suddenly rose up and swept towards the battle arts. Don't even think about it. But at the same time, the brawny man roared, the shield in his hand instantly dissipated, and then he stretched out his hands and firmly hugged the giant tail. However, the power of the fire dragon was too terrifying. He couldn't hold the giant tail at all. But he didn't panic. There was even a confident smile on his face. "Now I'll let you see the true power of the Heaven Dipper technique." Heaven Dipper technique, petrification. After that, the brawny man's khaki battle chi poured out of his chi sea and rushed towards the fire flood dragon's huge tail as fast as a sudden clap of thunder. Immediately, an amazing scene appeared. The battle chi lingered on the fire dragon's giant tail and quickly solidified into stone. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon's giant tail was completely petrified. And this petrification was still spreading to the fire dragon's body. It was very fast. At this moment, a trace of panic finally crept into the fire dragon's eyes. The blood in its body surged, and the battle chi surged wildly. Crack. Following a series of deafening screeches, the rocks covering its body began to crack open like a spiderweb. It turned out to be just this. Immediately, the fire dragon's eyes were full of disdain. It was ready to shatter all the stones covering its body in one go. "Is that so?" But the brawny man sneered. As the khaki battle chi continued to pour in, those cracks quickly healed. And half of the fire dragon's body had been petrified. "Damn human, what did you do to me?" The fire dragon roared. This is the ultimate mystery of the Heaven Dipper technique. Whether it's a beast or a human, they can all be petrified. Although it can't completely petrify your body, with this layer of stone armor covering you, it's difficult for you to move. The brawny man sneered. Swish. At this time, in a broken deep ditch below, two figures appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and Fatso. The two also heard the brawny man's voice and curiously wanted to come out to take a look.